stepped into the room, and I knew I was doomed to fall for you. The moment I saw you smile, now everywhere you go, my eyes follow close, and I'm just waiting for the time to be right to tell you how I've loved you for a while. Oh, my heart is going wild. You wear me down like when the sea meets earth. I fade away just like the rocks have worn. Don't you see what you do to me? You keep crashing into me. I keep turning out to be something more than what I was before. Your skin touched my skin, and I could feel the breaking of my cold stone heart was about to begin. The moment that we locked eyes, now everywhere you go, my eyes follow close, and I'm just waiting for the time to be right to tell you how I've loved you for a while. Oh, my heart is going wild. You wear me down like when the sea meets earth. I fade away just like the rocks have worn. Don't you see what you do to me? You keep crashing into me. I keep turning out to be something more than what I was before. Like when the sea meets earth, I fade away just like the rocks have worn. Don't you see what you do to me? You keep crashing into me. I keep turning out to be something more than what I was before. I think I'm starting to lose my mind because this precarious situation that we find ourselves in means that it's only a matter of time before a storm of wonder starts to fill my mind. And for the first time in a long time, you're the first one to make me feel like I want you more and more than I do. I cannot take my eyes off of you. If you're a storm, I'll dance in the rain and I'll hold on by my fingertips. Maybe so lost in the dark that you forget who you really are? Have you ever wondered so much for the end that you forget how it begins? It's the look in your eyes when you look at me, when I touch your heart and I feel it beat, when I brush my hand up against your face to wipe your tears clean. It's not the end when you find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. It's not the end when you find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. Have you ever gotten so lost in the dark that you forget who you really are? Have you ever wondered so much for the end that you forget how it begins? It's the look in your eyes when you look at me, when I touch your heart and I feel it beat, when I brush my hand up against your face to wipe your tears clean. It's not the end when you find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. It's not the end when you find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. It's not the end when you find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. It's not the end when you find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. Have you ever gotten so lost in the dark that
Good evening and welcome back for this Thursday Night Fights edition of the Collegiate Star League. It's a matchup between University of Toronto and University of British Columbia. My name is Toffees. As always, you can find me at Toffees TV over on Twitter, and I'm joined by my co-caster, Gorgon the Wonder Bovine. You can find him at the Wonder Cow on Twitter as well. How you doing tonight, Gorgon?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here back for some more Thursday night CSL action.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what we got here. We've seen UBC play. We've seen Toronto play. We have not seen them play each other. Should be a pretty good matchup. Going back to their previous games, if you talk about where they are in the league right now, both of these teams doing very well. UBC doing extremely well as they are currently 3-0. So they are on the top of the northern bracket of the North 1 division with a perfect performance, 3-0. They have dropped one game, and that is to the same team that Toronto had a game taken off of them by as well. Toronto University of is 2-0, so they have only played 2 games instead of 3, but they have also a perfect record. So basically both of these teams, perfect records. Both of these teams dropped a game to the same competitor. very, very evenly matched. The only difference is that 1 game advantage in favor of UBC. So it's a good chance for Toronto to prove that just because they're a game down, they had a bye week, doesn't mean that they shouldn't be on top of the brackets.
Yeah, moving in, it should be a pretty good game. We've got some pretty standard bans already coming out. The Doom makes perfect sense. So does the Ember, the Queen of Pain. Undying, maybe a little bit less common in terms of what you would expect out of non-professional teams. Not as popular hero in terms of pub statistics, especially at high levels. But in pro games, still very popular.
Definitely. So what are you looking for when you watch a game like this? It's sort of the first of a match from 2 very evenly recorded teams. We know UBC has great play levels. We know Toronto does too as well. What do you expect to see out of these drafts? Do you think they follow that pro meta pretty closely, or do you think they focus on doing their own thing or playing to their strengths?
I think at this stage where you're talking about some of the better teams in the league, you're probably going to be looking at players who understand to a good degree the basic theory behind most of pro picks and why those picks are strong. I hope that they still play to their strengths rather than just trying to parrot what they see, but we're probably going to see much more closely tied to that 5K MMR bracket or above, and to some degree the professional game as well.
All right, so now the bans come out. We see the Broodmother and the Wind Ranger both banned out there. Broodmother, obviously one of those heroes that is she? I know that she was really popular early on because of her ability to sort of change the way that a game is played. I heard that there were some nerfs applied to her. Were they enough to sort of keep her as a scary option in these games? Is she worth still banning, or is it just something where if your opponent has a good Broodmother, then it's worth spending the ban on?
I mean, so it's a little early to tell how those nerfs are going to end up impacting her. They were very small. All things considered, it was just a small change to her attack modifier, which I forget exactly what it's called off the top of my head. But in pro gaming, Broodmother is honestly, she's never been that dominant of a hero. She's never been that amazingly strong of a hero. She's just really strong if you A, have no counter, or B, are against an amazing Broodmother like Zai or Mag, right? That's really where you're looking. In terms of the last 10 or 11 days, Broodmother has about a 30% win rate in Pro Dota. Like and I ran the stats, and I may have said this on this broadcast last time we talked about Brood, but I ran the stats for how Broodmothers do in lane last February when she started to become popular based off of Zai's success, right?
Right.
She, on average, actually, at that time at least, was getting less gold being in the game than she would have gotten if she just stayed in Fountain in the first 10 minutes. The only player in the world other than Zai who managed to have a positive gold impact on his team in the first 10 minutes was Ice Ice Ice. And that's not including the amount of gold that you give to your opponents from the Spiderling. So she's very much a double-edged sword, and if you don't know how to play her, you absolutely can't justify picking her up. That said, if your opponents have no counter and you do have somebody who plays her, it's almost a guaranteed win in a lot of cases.
Makes sense. Gyrocopter picked up by University of Toronto, a hero that we like to watch, is a lot of fun, great with these team fights. Does have that pocket of fall off that honestly, when I look at UBC and I see a Tusk and a Shadow Fiend, I feel pretty strongly that Gyrocopter sort of hits that dip around the time that Tusk and Shadow Fiend become absolutely difficult to deal with. And it does worry me a little bit to see that Gyro picked up, especially now that they had that Dazzle to sort of allow them to really act on that Doldrum.
Yeah, so the Slardar is going to be the hero who's going to have to go in and make a lot of this action happen, and Gyrocopter will try to fill in the back and then probably come up with some rocket barrages early, use the call down in order to gain some area control through the mid game, but Slardar is going to be, for the most part, what you have to deal with. A Tiny here for University of Toronto would very much fit the sort of pro meta that we've been seeing develop out right now with both Slardar and Gyrocopter. So I'm interested to see if they decide to do a Tiny mid up against Shadow Fiend.
Now, for those of us who are maybe less versed in the meta as we kind of wait for that pick to come out, why does Tiny work so well with the Slardar Gyrocopter? I assume that there's an armor reduction reason in there, but what else in there really makes Tiny so strong with this combo?
So you have the chain stuns from Tiny, right? That go very well with Slardar. Right. Slardar as well can be thrown in by the Tiny for the stun, which means that if you're anywhere near an opponent and you have a Slardar near you, right? You're an allied Slardar. You can throw him in, he can stun, the Tiny can run in, get the chain stun so the entire team can catch up. The Gyrocopter pairs fairly well. In addition, you can throw in with a rocket barrage, anything like that. You can throw opponents away from the gyrocopter in order to help the gyrocopter kite. It's just the sort of thing that we've seen a bit more. Tiny has been getting a lot more versatility since he's been run more often with a blink dagger than straight into Ags out of the mid lane. This is something that we used to see in Dota 1 and even as recently as maybe 2012, 2013 as a standard on Tiny. And it doesn't look like we're going to see that because we've got the Alchemist coming out, more than likely mid-Alchemist, but he is a very popular hero lately, largely thanks to what is now Team OG.
Right, exactly. So we do see that mid-Alchemist presumably come out. I mean, I think, and then maybe I get eviscerated for this, that there is still a validity to the idea of a support Alchemist, though we never actually get to see it played anymore on the pro level. I think especially at the collegiate level, I think a support Alchemist has an extremely high amount of value. So let's not write that off just yet.
So I did just run an article on Dota Blast not very long ago that went over the pub statistics, and support Alchemist is actually the most successful Alchemist at pub level play. So anything between like 2K, and basically anything that's not ticketed. A support Alchemist is statistically more likely to win than a carry Alchemist.
Is the modern support Alchemist still built the same way as the support Alchemist? I think it was of 6.81 that was very popular.
So a modern support Alchemist would be any Alchemist that doesn't prioritize Greevil's Greed, in my opinion.
Okay.
So usually that's going to be an unstable concoction priority because you're going to be in a tri lane. Of that sort. Right, into a medallion or something of that sort. End up getting a Greevil's Greed, go into the jungle, catch up, pull out a mechanism or something like that, yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. So, well, we'll see what they do. I'm fairly certain Toronto will be running him as a mid, but you never know. Maybe they catch us off guard. I would love to see it. I think that it would throw UBC completely off. Right now, they're putting a lot of time and effort into thinking out this pick. They've already run through almost all of their clock at the moment, so they're clearly kind of considering a counter for Alchemist, which I think is a good argument for sort of that fourth pick support Alchemist, because it throws them off when you go ahead and get your hard carry. Phoenix is going to go ahead and get picked up by UBC Dota. This is a hero that we don't get to see. I don't get to see as often, but I've played with a couple of great Phoenixes in the last week or two, and I think it's a hero that really has a lot of potential in this patch, especially when blended with somebody like a Tusk or a Dazzle who has great pace control and can sort of use zoning.
So Alchemist in Chemical Rage has the lowest base attack time, which is an indicator of how fast you're going to be able to attack in the game. So actually Phoenix's Fire Spirits are pretty effective at dealing with that. It just sort of counteracting a lot of what that Alchemist is going to offer. At the end of the day, he's going to be hitting for 140 attack speed slow. That's really, really, really significant when all that your hero really does, right, is hit fast. Slowing that down and having the ability to slow that down could be quite effective. I haven't seen that as a specific counter that often, but it is a very interesting take on how to get around that hero.
Silencer is banned out, as was the Animage in the last round, or they're getting rid of these. They don't want that late hard carry coming out on the side of UBC. Silencer, I think, would have been a pretty strong support up against UBC, or up against them, so a good ban there as well. Now, when we're looking at this, Shadow Demon comes out, wants to get some control, try to lock up UBC and take somebody out of the fight for some fast burn down. What is UBC looking for here? I assume it's their hard carry. They're looking for something to take it home. What do you need to fight up against this University of Toronto lineup?
Yeah, there's two ways that they can run this, right? They could get something like the Spectre and just try to take it late. I don't think that that's the best idea because Alchemist Gyrocopter together are a pretty strong late game potential. But University of Toronto seem to pretty clearly want to get an early start and roll over through some mid-game momentum, right? That seems to be their strategy. So for UBC, the goal is to be able to pick up something that is going to allow them to react into that momentum very successfully and get some counter ganks. A Slark is a great way to do that. I think that that's a very solid pickup here.
Absolutely. So Slark gets picked up. Mamelode will be playing that Slark in the, looks like the farming position, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty good game shaping up. University of Toronto versus UBC. Looking at the drafts, Gorgon, just on paper, taking out player skill, whose draft do you prefer?
Yeah, I do like University of Toronto's draft. I think it's very aggressive. I think that it requires a lot of teamwork, but at the end of the day, it could really throw a lot of teams off in terms of if you hit your stride with an aggressive draft like that, it can be very difficult to come back or for your opponents to come back from that sort of snowball.
All right, so now we just wait for everybody to take their roles as we get this game underway. This is week 4 of the Collegiate Star League, guys. So we're going to go through December. We're going to take a break in December as all the colleges let out for Christmas break. Everyone gets to go home. Myself and Gorgon will take about a month off, and then we will be back at the end of break in January to bring you more collegiate action all the way through May at the end of the season. And the top 4 teams will be invited to a LAN event in a yet undetermined location. I know of the 3 places they're considering, and all of them would be an awesome experience. I can guarantee you that. So make sure you follow to find out who's going to be playing for the $15,000 in scholarships. That's it. Let's do some quick introductions for these teams. University of Toronto on the Dire side is going to have Mr. Azure on the Alchemist. We're going to have Avarice playing the Slardar. We're going to have the Death playing the Shadow Demon. Lich will be played by Captain. And last but not least, the Gyrocopter will be played by KY.
All right, and Mama Load is going to be sneaking around on the Slark. Sinclair is going to be scaring you on the Shadow Fiend. It's going to be Frosted Cakes on the Dazzle. We've got a slight pause as we move over into the off lane, where we've got Sorry burning up on the Phoenix. And, of course, way down here is going to be KCY chilling out on the Tuskar.
I'm looking at Tuskar in close-up, and it looks like Is he bugged and laying down casually to you as well?
No, he's not. He's standing up and doing normal Tuskar things on my screen.
You'll have to glance over in about 3 minutes, where it looks like he was like, pause and chill, and just lay down for a pretty sweet little nap. But those are the lineups as this game gets underway. Like I said, both of these teams, something to prove. They want to maintain that top position on this bracket. UBC is 3-0 at number 1. U of T is 2-0, and they are down, I believe it is at number 4 on, number 3 on the list. But that's because they have 1 game in hand. So they want to prove, if they can beat UBC, that they will continue to hold 1 game in hand and still be able to put themselves on top of the bracket. I don't know if you follow a lot of European football or sports that tend to sort of have that game in hand situation. It is a very powerful position to be in when you can be on the top of the bracket and still have that game that's yet to be played.
Yeah, that just statistically, it's a huge advantage, right? We saw Team OG get through Dream League based on that advantage alone earlier. So, yeah, it's a great position for them to find themselves in. I do think that University, excuse me, of Toronto, I kind of lost my voice there for a second. University of Toronto here needs to make sure that they are paying close attention to this mid lane, because Shadow Fiend should be able to outlast hit Alchemist. That doesn't mean Alchemist will fall behind, because he does have Greevil's Greed and he gets massive gold surges from the runes. But just the fact that the soul count is going to ramp up on Shadow Fiend so quickly, they will want to gank that Shadow Fiend once or twice before the first 10 minutes.
Sounds like a plan. As we look to the middle lane, Sinclair and KCY setting up to cause some trouble for Azure. Azure going to take some damage right away. Has to turn Skippy around just to make sure he doesn't get himself into trouble. Skippy will turn back. Azure will get a fast bottle off of that Greevil's Greed in the top rune, and that's a nice start for him. And really, I like that play. Bringing KCY in, spending an Ice Shard to get a little bit of damage out there, and maybe slow Azure down ever so slightly.
And meanwhile, the Lich is doing the exact same thing here for the Dire side, right? This is all right for now, having the Lich kind of sit here and help out. Just taking away a bit of the experience and the last hits potential from Shadow Fiend. But they're going to need to rotate a lot more in order to make it happen.
Definitely. Up on the top, we've got Sorry, or SRY. I assume it's Sorry, but I don't know that for sure. As he falls back from Death, who's putting up a lot of stacks on him. He's getting pretty low, but we did not have enough Shadow Poison to finish the job. So he'll back away. He's got the salve, gets back to full, and heads back to lane. Now, when you look at this middle matchup, Lich is doing a good job of sort of sticking around and making it even easier for Azure to come out ahead on this lane. Are they going to have to keep that Lich there the whole time to make sure that Azure stays ahead of Sinclair?
They actually, I think, have to rotate the Lich out very soon, and looks like they are going to rotate him out now, maybe. If they don't rotate the Lich away, then they can't get the element of surprise onto the Shadow Fiend for a gank, right? So they absolutely need to show that Lich somewhere else on the map, just so that the Shadow Fiend doesn't always feel like he is under pressure. Once he feels a little bit less pressured, he'll come out farther from his tower and be willing to get into a position where he might be gankable. That's absolutely crucial here. To make sure that he does not come out of this early game with max souls and comparable farm to the Alchemist.
Now, down on the bottom, we've got Avarice going up against Mamalode. Mamalode looking for the farm. Avarice not really getting boxed out too much, as he is 3-2, so he's trying his best to keep up. I mean, this is a tough off lane for a Slardar, right? He's not going to get a ton of last hits, especially once Frosty Cake starts to sort of stick to lane and box him out a little bit. Is that his goal, just to soak XP?
Yeah, he'll try to get a couple last hits, and he isn't in too much danger. He is a high health, high armor hero, so Slark can pounce him, but there's always the response of the Slithering Crush.
Right.
If he gets a couple of lucky hits, or once he levels Bash, if he gets lucky Bash, he might be able to get a kill if he does it just right. But for the most part, I think okay last hits, have the Lich down here, offset some of that equilibrium problem, and just get through it long enough to get the basic items he needs to start rotating around and getting kills.
All right, so it's for those of you who were here last week, I decided to go ahead and repeat the overlay helmet vision just because last week we all requested to have it back once it was gone. So hopefully you enjoyed that little window view of what Dota is like if you're wearing a Renaissance helmet. Gold lead is 750 towards the benefit of Toronto. XP at 300. Nobody in firm control of this match yet. It's been a pretty even split all over the lanes as we still wait for that first blood. Azure is chasing that Shadow Fiend. Looks like he wants to try to finish Sinclair. Going pretty heavy on him. He's got the double damage, has to back away. Meanwhile, on the bottom, the pounce on Captain, the heal bomb from Frosty Cakes, and that will be the first blood. So there was an attempt to try and get a pick off up there on the top. Azure putting in some good work, but it wasn't enough. And ultimately, first blood in this match goes to University of British Columbia. And when I look at the UBC lineup, it seems to me that it is important not to let them get too far ahead. These guys look like they are 100% built to steamroll.
Yeah, they are.
Up on top, by the way, as I say, don't let them get ahead. They get a beautiful little pick on the rune with the help of Death to come down and make sure that that Shadow Fiend doesn't get too far out in front.
Yeah, that's the kill they needed, right? KCY is going to be here. He might be able to solo kill if he has the mana, this Alchemist, but not if he lets the Alchemist wander too far up. He's waiting for the Shadow Fiend. If the Shadow Fiend can get the last hit, he recovers all of those souls that he just lost.
Right. So
that's the goal here. Try to get those souls back up as quickly as possible. Here
Shards,
we go.
But,
there is a snowball. There is a snowball.
He decides not to do it. He was hoping he could get it with the Raz, I think.
Yeah, that was
curious.
So I understand the instinct to try and let him get it with the Shadow Race, right? But you don't have to launch that snowball right away. And they definitely could have gotten that kill with one more auto attack at the snowball. The Alchemist walked away with about 60 health. So that was, yeah, it was an unnecessary kill loss, to be honest.
So right now, Sinclair is 19-5 in the mid position. We know that he did go down once. That seems a little low for me in terms of CS for a mid Shadow Fiend. Is that true, or is that what you'd expect up against an Alchemist with that Lich helping him early on?
Up against an Alchemist, we'd expect in a pro game to be at about 27 right now. Okay. In a just general pro game, generally speaking, we'd be looking at about 23 last hits. So it's easier against an Alchemist statistically.
Makes sense. KY, by the way, gets a pick off on Sari up on the top lane, chasing him to the trees. Sari pops the TP, but it doesn't go off in time. So not only did he get taken out, he lost an additional 150.
Down bottom.
100 gold. That's 75 gold nowadays. Sorry. Captain gets engaged on. Big pounce. Gonna put some work on him. Ice Shards finishes the job. The value of Tusk. KCY comes in, and the team, UBC, makes it 2 for 2.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about with the Slark pickup, right? You want to have a hero who's able to re-engage very well. You want to be able to kind of take some of that aggression that's going to start coming out of U of T pretty quickly here and turn it around on them. Slark is a great hero for that. He reinitiates and he de-initiates very strongly. He is going to go for a Midas, it looks like. I don't know that I agree with that pick. The Midas, in theory, here is going to help him kind of keep up with the Alchemist to a certain degree, but it does mean that he's not going to be able to be active as early either. So if there is a snowball potential coming out of U of T, that Midas can be very heavily punished.
By the way, I do want to point out that Death for University of Toronto is only level 3, but that's because he's been doing a very good job of making sure that every time the runes spawn, Azure is able to get the top rune. He's bottling bounties, and more importantly, he's actually made to the point where Sinclair is afraid to go up towards that top rune to try and pick it up for himself or to fight for it in any way, shape, or form. In fact, in that last one, he had Azure down to 25% health, but did not challenge him for the top rune because he knew the Shadow Demon would be there, which he actually was. So great play by U of T. A little bit of a mental game, but also just a really strong choice to make sure Alchemist gets what he wants and force Sinclair to reconsider his options.
Yeah, he's not actually behind, right? He's the same level as the Tusk. Like, this is a good time for that support to be at that level.
Ooh, Slark gets picked off on the bottom lane. U of T goes up by 1. Missed that kill, but that had to be a pretty good execution in order to get a pick off on Slark at this level.
He's just so low health. It's just Slithering Crush in combination with Frostblast is enough to do it. That's why I had said with a Lucky Bash, Slardar could solo kill that Slark, right? And with the Lich down here to get that additional nuke, it's really not that hard if Slark is left alone. That's why this Dazzle was so key for this lane, because the Grave is a guarantee escape for the Slark.
Oh! The baits! I don't know if you saw that. KY was very low, under 150 HP. Sorry saw him with the Phoenix and thought that he had turned him to run. So basically he made this cute little cheeky play where he dashed into the jungle here like he was trying to get away. Phoenix closed to throw out a couple of Fire Spirits to see if he could finish the job, and Gyro was hiding right around the corner, turned it, and nuked him to nothing. Really nice play by U of T to put them up by 2.
All right, so it looks like the Slark was getting treads and not Midas after all, which I think is a much better call. I'm not sure if that was originally his plan or if he just changed his mind after his death, but either way, it was the right move to make there for sure.
All right, Goldie, by the way, is at 3,000 to the favor of U of T. XP is a little over 1,000. Some of that coming off of that Alchemist who has got level 4 at Greevil's Greed. Frosty Cakes and Sinclair take advantage of the fact that Alk has fallen to the jungle for a little while to try and push down this middle tower. Glyph is going to be used to buy some space, but no one looks like they're coming to defend it. University of Toronto does send Death over, but all he's really going to do is try to slow down Sinclair a little bit. He does get 2 stacks of Shadow Poison up on him. He's going to have to back away up on top. Sorry, under attack by KY. KY closing the gap. Doesn't have any rocket homing missiles ready, so unable to sort of finish the job with the track down.
Yeah, that was a rocket barrage, full hit on that Phoenix. He got very close to driving Sorry down. Sorry is going to be able to get away, but KY is going to just try to zone him out as best he can. But KCY is here. This could be very risky.
Yeah, I thought they might go for it. KCY decides not to and just takes the slow walk back. It's always funny when you see like a Dire and a Radiant just sort of running next to each other on a lane. This unspoken agreement of, I don't know which way this would go if we fought right now, so we're just not going to do it. Yeah,
one of them, specifically the Gyrocopter, could have been auto-attacking there because he has the range, but...
Right. All right, looks like we're going to go to the mid position where the push still continues from Frosty Cakes and Sinclair. We do see Death come down along with the Lich to try and push him back. They make a little bit of a move here. Captain's in position to do some damage on Sinclair. They get him with the right click. University of Death. Oh, Death takes the shot to the face, though. Ends up going down. What were they trying to accomplish there?
You know, I wasn't watching that. I was trying to make sure I was catching up on the way that the Slark was getting killed down bottom, so...
How did the Slark get killed down bottom?
Just before that fight, he just got blown up by the Slardar. That's basically all. He's so far behind. Slithering Crush is 225 physical damage, excuse me, on top of the amplified damage. That's huge. Right, watch. Right now, it's going to happen again. Maybe.
Should I put himself
Maybe
in
it should. There it
goes.
is.
Makes the crush. Right click is strong. Mamalode already low. Wants to keep going, though. Misses the pounce. Now he's on the wrong side. It looks like Avarice wants to come in. Slither in again. Boom. Slark. Dead fish.
Yeah.
Sinclair in the mid. I'm sorry. It looks like Azure wants to possibly engage here. He does not have a point in Unstable Concoction, though, so he needs Death to come in to try and get him locked out. Sinclair is able to just walk away. That 1 point in Concoction would have been very valuable there. Meanwhile, on the top, KY is going to TP away from a gank by Sorry and KCY. Burns the call down to slow him and manages to get himself to safety. So a potential situation on the top that would have been a travesty for Toronto avoided with a nice little escape. A lot of action up and down this map. Everyone taking 1v1s and 2v1s.
So you had mentioned that a point in Concoction would have been well worth its weight there. This is... In mid, you usually see max acid, but you don't... Oh.
Avarice is moving on Frosty Cakes. Got the combo up the same way he's been doing it on Slark. Kept him locked in place. Got a bash on the juke and finishes the job. And really, no one can come down to Avarice's lane. He just keeps destroying them.
Yeah, this is a point where these guys either need to group up and push something to force Avarice to rotate, or they need to, more to the point, get down here and kill him. Because they are out of this game if the Slardar gets out of control. Like, he can blow up a Slark, no problem. They have the Chain Suns to make it happen.
Here comes the roll. They're going to make a big move. Want to go for Lich. They move in on Lich. Lich dodges the initial stun. Out comes the shards. He dodges that as well. And UBC has to play it safe and back away. Out of curiosity, as we wait for the next fight to break out, what's the definition of avarice?
Oh, we are going
Death
to be.
comes in. He gets up 4 counts of poison, but that will be he should have no problem. Mamalo's just going to walk away from that one. Haste Rune bottled by the Alchemist. Tusk picks up the bounty, and Alchemist goes back to farming. He's at 12k. He's already almost done with his Radiance. Should have that up and running very quickly. Now, when you're playing this Alch, when you're going for that Radiance build, at what point in the game do you look to come to lane? At what point do you just sit and play with your jungle?
First of all, let me answer the first question you asked, which was what is the definition of avarice? I was trying to think of a good way to describe it. It's like being exceptionally desirous of physical things, like super, super greedy, right? That's what avarice is. What was the other question?
Alchemist, when did you leave the jungle?
When you
Never.
are able to 5-man. They're
Okay.
1v5 their team. I mean, they have put a ton of effort into stacking that jungle. I don't know if you caught the stacking patterns
I
the
did
Shadow
not.
Demon was doing, but he was using Shadow Poison to stack one camp while auto-attacking to stack another, so he's getting 2 camps a lot of minutes.
Avarice, Mamalode, they're going head-to-head again, and Mamalode does have 6, though. We'll use it to escape. Avarice on the chase, pops the sprint, gets the smack, right-click to finish the job. He can't do it. Nice shallow grave, TP in by the Dazzle. MVP makes a nice little play there, saves the life of Slark, who desperately needed it, could not afford to go down again. But, again, it's just Avarice is so strong right now, and with the backup of Captain, I just don't know what they do on this lane other than move 3 people down here and just try to take away the tower, take away the farm. Up on top, KY initiated on by KC, and sorry they go in, but KY turns right back around, throws up the call down, rocket barrage, damage for days, forcing out the fireball from Sorry, who will use that to back away, decides not to pick up KCY decides not to pick up the fight, but here comes Death from the side, wants to move on Sorry, gonna go ahead and put him in his Dome of Doom. No, the Ice Shard actually backfires, knocks Avarice forward into Sorry, and Sorry is going to get nuked down. That was unfortunate.
I really, really hate saying this early in the game, but we're officially at the point where it's going to take mistakes from U of T to lose this game. Like, I don't think that UBC can win this based on execution alone anymore.
KY comes down. Sinclair pushed the bottom lane in the meantime. Takes a lot of damage from the TP from KY. He's not backing off just yet. Meanwhile, on the top, we see U of T push down the top tower. So it's a tower for a tower. And Gold Lead, by the way, just to kind of punctuate your point, at about 5.5k in favor of U of T and 4.5 in experience favoring Toronto as well. So it's been a strong start. That said, this is that stage where KY is supposed to be doing well. The heroes on the side of U of T, Avarice does very well at this stage. Is there a possibility that UBC can sort of bring some aggression, maybe make some smoke rotations in that 16 to 20 minute mark and get themselves back in a position to win this game?
So I don't think smoke rotations are going to be enough because I suspect that U of T is not going to give them enough time to really make that happen. Azure is going to jump into the jungle, farm an entire double set of stacks, right? Then they're going to go push another lane while one of the support stacks again. Then he's going to jump into the jungle for another 45 seconds, get some stacks, go push the next lane, grab another tower. Just keep on pushing that out. I don't really know how they smoke rotate other than maybe the Shadow Fiend once he gets up some sort of a item to set up his ultimate. But he's going for... It looks like a Shadow Blade build, so that's going to be kind of hard to set up in and of itself. I don't know how they knock down the Alchemist at this point with the 17% miss chance of that Radiance until somebody... And he's not even going for the Shadow Blade, but he goes for Sanj and Yasha. So he has no way to set up his ultimate. He's entirely reliant now on the Slark Pounce to set up the ultimate, or maybe a Snowball into Ice Shards, into Walrus Punch. Those are the only 2 ways to even set up a Requiem. So they're completely execution dependent.
UBC is going to push on the bottom, falls back as rotation comes out to stop them. It's a smoke rotation from University of Toronto, looking to make something happen. The boys smell it out, sniff it out, and back away. So it depends on if they can close. Actually, they counter smoke, but it's immediately broken by Frosty Cakes. This could be bad. The stun available for Adri. He's going to throw it. Frosty Cakes takes it to the face. The armor reduction is there, and he is annihilated. A little bit of help from KCY, but to no avail. Up on top, we see the transfer of Avarice. He does not join the team fight. Basically, he saw Slark, TP'd to the top, waited for his chance to see him. Slark, Mamalode misses the pounce, goes to the off-bridge position, and ends up getting knocked backwards. Now he's trying to juke, but you know where the smoke is. Goes to the jungle. Avarice wants to close. He's available. He closes the distance, moves in, and Mamalode will get sent back to base again. Avarice has made it his personal mission in this game to make Mamalode miserable.
Yeah, he is now sitting at 4-0-2. He's doing great on last hits as well. He's almost got 50 out of these, well, semi-solo offlane. He had a lich there for a little while. But there's no stage of this game moving on forward where U of T doesn't have at least one strong hero, right? The Slardar is going to remain strong for quite some time. Then the Gyrocopter will be strong. He's a huge late game carry. The Alchemist does fall off a touch toward the end, but he's a great semi-core, even if you go very, very, very late. And he can honestly hard carry with some of the hardest carries. He's just not typically used that way.
Mixed. All right, so Sinclair now continues to push that bottom lane with the support of Dazzle and KCY, sort of sticking to their guns in terms of their positioning here. Got a little bit of harass on the Gyrocopter. He's forced to go back to base to regen as they keep that push going. But here comes Death from the side, wants to move in, gets caught in a zoning ice shard. Great job making that engagement, but he goes inside a disruption. He is going to hide out. Frosty Cakes gets up the shallow grave on himself. KCY goes down. Here comes KY, putting out some serious damage. Sinclair gets the double, and boom, drops the gyro, but ends up losing 3 in the process. So it's a 2 for 3. Sorry does go into his egg, but now the chase is on as Lich looked like he wanted to close, but Avarice not willing to continue the chase. He backs away. Phoenix makes a couple of dives, takes a pot shot at Captain, but has to back off, and that exchange goes the way of UBC, I guess, since they're so far behind.
No-ish.
No-ish.
U of T got more out of that fight.
Right.
And the gold that did go to UBC, probably, I didn't actually hit the fight recap, but it probably went to the Phoenix and the Dazzle, right? Because they were the ones that were there for the kills. Those aren't the heroes that you really need gold on. The heroes that you do need gold on, the Tusk, Slark, and Shadow Fiend, either weren't there or lost gold. And one of the heroes that did end up getting gold for U of T is going to be that Slardar. So not only did U of T get more out of that situation by just a little bit, but they got it on the more important heroes, which is a big game.
All right, that gold lead, by the way, after that engagement is in their favor. 10,000 gold advantage for U of T right now. XP at 7,500. Some of that on the back of the Alchemist, others not. As Azure pops his Chemical Rage, goes after Mamalode from behind. Avarice finds himself some KCY. KCY is going to go into his Snowball. He's going to try to turn back around on Avarice. Avarice is fine with that. Makes his engagement. KCY did buy space for the escape of the Slardar, and KCY will go down to save the life of Mamalode. Down the bottom lane, Death is pushing by himself. Frosty Cake sees it, starts to flank around, puts up the weave, and now he knows they know that he's there, and he'll just TP away before anybody can come in.
Yeah, that was a very smart play by the Slardar. When the Tuskar snowballed, the natural inclination for a lot of players is just to kind of stand and wait for the snowball to run out, but he ran away, not because he was scared, but because he wanted to drag the snowball as far away from safety as possible. Once again, small, subtle things that end up making a big difference there.
Item-wise, let's check in. Actually, let's not check in. Let's go to the bottom lane where it looks like Avarice is being a little bit greedy as he goes in against 3 and just says, I got the 4-stab. It don't matter. Jumps away to safety.
So Phoenix did end up going for a Midas here. We do have a Blink 4-staff on Slardar. That's a very typical offlane build these days. Fairly recent in development, but really, really very effective at the pro level. And it seems to be working out here as well. We do have a Shadow Blade up on the Slark, but there's nobody really for him to gank except maybe Captain. And Captain's been doing a very strong job of kind of staying by the Alchemist.
KCY in the mid position by himself, saw a 3-man rotation to that mid. I thought they'd push into it. U of T being a little bit passive about their push. They really seem more interested in taking team fights. And is that just because, honestly, the longer the game goes, the more comfortable they feel?
I think it's for a couple of reasons. One of those reasons is that they can drag the game out at this point. The other one is the Slardar doesn't seem to need towers down in order to get kills. He's still getting in enemy territory and getting those pickoffs. And that's all that they really need, right? They need the space for Slardar to take pickoffs. If they have that, then they're good. And we're going to see another one up top, potentially.
Yeah, Mamalode went for the push. In comes Avarice, misses the stun.
It was a nice try, though. He had no idea where that Slark was, and it was just a blind. He was only off by like 100 units.
Right. So Slark does finish up that Shadow Blade. It saves his life in this particular instance. Now we see a giant rotation by U of T as they come down towards the mid position. Calldown's going to go out, try to zone everybody back. It splits the team of UBC, which could be bad news as they're going to get initiated from behind. Death comes in, takes a lot of damage immediately from that Tusk combo, goes ahead and disappears, I believe. What was that? Did somebody get a...
Tusk still wants it. Yeah,
That's
it's on Lich. The Glimmer Cape is on Lich.
So Lich makes a good save, but it ends up costing 2. KCY gets a shallow grave as Frosty Cakes heals from the down, which is a nice little play by him. Sinclair going to come in, start the fight. Azure puts up a stun, but he's getting low. He's got to start to drop back. Avarice in very deep, doing what Avarice does. KY finishes off Sinclair. He's going to go down. The chase is on. Sorry is going to get away. Frosty Cakes buys some space just in case. Mamalode comes back in, then says maybe this is the best idea, and just leaves as it costs them the dazzle. A 2 for 2 after all is said and done. U of T, though, should be able to push down and take this mid tower without too much effect, as most everybody else has a TP to safety.
And once again, that's a fight that should, in theory, having an even trade, should in theory go to UBC, but it just doesn't, because every single core on U of T got gold out of that. The Shadow Fiend lost souls and gold in that fight, and now there's going to be a tower swing on it as well. So even though on paper maybe that trade goes to UBC, in reality, the way it shook out, it does not.
Avarice going on Sorry dives away, tries to get to safety. Avarice the Force Staff, boom! Shakalaka takes out another hero. What is he sitting at right now in terms of his KD?
703, so he's got a KD of 10.
Sweet Lord.
And they're going to be able to just decimate this Roshan, no big deal. Avarice doesn't need it. Might go to Azure, and it will. Now they can do whatever they want. They literally can do it. I mean, the Alchemist already has Manta and Boots of Travel and Octarine Core and Radiance. If he gets rid of the bottle, he's 6-slotted with an Aegis.
So, basically, like many of our politicians, U of T officially above the law, as they are able to just take what they want. Avarice doing a good example of showing us just how aggressive you can safely be, as he went all the way down to here by his lonesome and got a pick off, and then got to safety with no ramifications whatsoever. The gold level is at 15,000 for them. The XP is at 10, and that's not just the Alchemist, that's also just strong play. Avarice comes in, dodges the Ice Shards from KCY, and backs away. He's using that Force Staff like a boss.
Yeah, it's really very effective, especially because you do have the sprint to get away, right? You don't ever have to worry about getting away. You just have to worry about getting slowed down or stunned when you're right next to your opponent. If you can get a bit of distance, like 400 units, you're almost guaranteed to get away. Well,
and let's be honest, the one if you could say UBC lacks anything, it is the ability to stun.
Slark may be going down here. He is graved, he's Shadow Blades. He'll run away. The stun is going to go on the Dazzle, though, who does not have a grave. He should die.
He gets hit here, but they're a little bit out of position. Doesn't look like they're going to move in. Actually, they pick off the Shadow Fiend. So basically, Shadow Fiend was out of position, which allowed Dazzle, I guess, to live because they were busy annihilating Sinclair.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that they didn't kill both. I expected everything over there to die, and it still might. Avarice's going to blink. He goes for the wrong target there, I think.
I think he's just showing off, making some plays. Here from the backside comes the Slark. Looks like Mamalode may want to engage. Goes on Death. Death takes some damage. Goes into Disruption. Avarice gets off a nice shot. Gets everyone inside of it. Out comes the ball. But Azure's got the ultimate running. Down goes the egg. That's cracked, and it ain't coming back. Mamalode gets caught, rocked, and dropped, and that is 4 for the price of none. They'll take this tower. They'll push in and make it 5, baby, as Frosty Cakes pays the piper for a 5-man wife. And what's that? A monster kill streak on Avarice.
Yeah, I'm thinking GG is around the corner here. There's not a lot of room, it doesn't seem, from U of T for big mistakes. They just aren't making them this game, to be honest. The biggest mistake I've seen so far out of basically the entire U of T squad is that maybe a couple times they've gone for the wrong target and missed a kill. Not died, just missed a kill. They have an 807 Slardar, a 505 Alchemist, who is also basically maxed, right? I don't really know what you could possibly do to come back.
Avarice goes on Sinclair. Sinclair in some trouble. The stun is up. He was just trying to harass. Pops the BKB to get away, and he will, as they're not going to dive. They're going to be smart and stick to the racks. Try to get that melee down. Phoenix dive to put a little harassment out there, but Azure's got his ultimate back up. In comes the roll from the Walrus. Out comes the Fire Blast. KCY went too deep, left alone. Avarice cleans him out. Now the TPs. Azure doesn't want to go, though. He does finish the melee racks. Decides it's worth sticking around. Mamalode comes in from behind, tries to make a move, gets hit by and he's going to back away. Azure looks like he is in trouble, but his regen is running almost out of space. Everyone into the snowball. Sinclair to close. Azure taking the damage. They may be able to do it. They do finally bring him down, but he's got an Aegis. He's coming back up, but he's got no help. We do have 2 on the back. If Death wants to try to roll in and help him out, Azure is going to get caught inside of the fight. Pops his ultimate, throws out the stun, but that's all he's got, and the guys from behind decide it's not worth engaging, and KY will just back away.
Yeah, so that's nice. They cost them a melee Rax. They get something. It's definitely not enough to bring them back into the game, but 2,500-ish gold swing, it's okay. It's about a 1/10 of their deficit. So 10 more of those. Yeah.
10 more of those. And, you know, I don't want to raise any alarms. Well, first off, let's watch Mamalode die here. Here comes Avarice, closes the distance. The pounce actually works. It was an escape pounce that stuck Avarice in place and gave Mamalode just enough time to get himself out of trouble. So interesting. Meanwhile, we look at the jungle where we see Death come around, gets up the disruption. Captain caught by the rest of the team. He's going to go down, puts up the ultimate, does some damage. In comes Avarice. Wants to go for Sinclair. Huge shallow grave as they split the fight. Sinclair on the run. Can Avarice finish him? He does. Down he goes. Mamalode on the chase. The BKB on Avarice is running. He tries to get to safety. Stun up on Mamalode. Wants to turn back around. Tusk looks like he's trying to come in. Gets hit by the stun, though. Now he's going to come from the backside. They're trying to close, and they cannot do it as Avarice will run to safety. Shards do hit that Shadow Demon, and he will ultimately go down. So a good pick off there as the chase continues on Avarice. Avarice in some trouble. KY pops the BKB. Call down. Sorry, because the wraparound is there. It's a 4. Avarice survives barely. He's still alive with 30 HP. The turnaround is real. It's a triple. They invested everything they had because they were mad at Avarice and the way that he has just been playing this game so aggressively, and it cost them every chance they had at a comeback. That fight recap says that was a huge swing in the favor of U of T gold-wise, which is hard to do when U of T spent a buyback and is so far ahead. And they're just pushed right down this middle lane. This should be Rax. This should honestly be game.
You know, it looks like that's a huge swing, but at 30 minutes, 1,200 gold should be a huge swing. But that's like 3% of the actual differential here. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what UBC have already lost.
It is. Well, if you look at the mark, you can kind of see the middle of that fight was actually great for UBC, and then they just kept going, and it was just, I think, a little bit of a, I think we think that they were out of it. Avarice goes in deep, makes the finish there. They move on Sinclair. He drops down. Nice snowball to keep Sinclair alive, actually. Avarice turns back, wants to fight. We get the beam from the Phoenix, and that finishes KY. I mean, what else can we do? What else can you do here? There's the GG. Not surprised. 29 minutes. U of T finishes the game with a whopping 25,000 gold lead, an XP lead of 20,000, and shows that while they are 3rd on the list and 2 behind UBC, they are not a team to be trifled with. We go to game 2 now here at the Collegiate Star League. Make sure you follow C Star League over on Twitter as well as the Facebook account if you want to hear more about collegiate action to come. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV, and of course I'm joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. Where can these folks find you?
You can find me over at The Wonder Cow on Twitter.
So check it out, guys. Stick around. We'll play some music for you. Be hanging out in Twitch chat until the next game is ready as we get prepped and set up for Game 2 of this matchup between University of Toronto and University of British Columbia in the Collegiate Star League. Don't go anywhere, and as always, Toffees out.
Stranded in nowhere, cross my arms, destiny will come. No way to see you, but the earth and the sky are singing out. No way to see you, but your eyes are as pure as the clouds. And it breaks my heart to see when I cry uncontrollably that a thing like innocence cut the attention of my heart. We all follow light, doesn't mean that's right enough. Stranded in nowhere, cross my arms, destiny will come. No way to see you, but your eyes are as pure as the clouds. And it breaks my heart to see when I cry uncontrollably that a thing like innocence cut the attention of my heart. We all follow light, doesn't mean that's right enough. And it breaks my heart to say when I cry uncontrollably that a thing like innocence cut the attention of my heart. We all follow light, doesn't mean that's right enough.
Good evening and welcome back to the Collegiate Star League matchup between UBC, University of British Columbia, and the University of Toronto. This is game 2 of a best-of-3 series. University of Toronto took a resounding win in the last game. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV. I'm joined by my co-caster, a master of all that is statistical analysis and an author for many of the websites that you're familiar with, Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can find him at the Wonder Cow over on Twitter. How are you doing tonight? And tell me, what did you think of that last game?
I'm doing very well. I thought that last game, the draft from U of T was just stellar. They clearly played to their strengths. They picked up a very well synergized team. They just had absolutely fantastic off-lane play coming out of Avarice. I couldn't have asked for a better performance out of U of T. It does mean that UBC needs to step up, though, because they're playing against U of T. It seems like U of T is definitely hitting their stride tonight. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. I 100% would agree with that, and we said this game coming into it, U of T is 2-0. UBC is 3-0, so there's not a huge differential in terms of these two teams. UBC often considered the better team, I think, in the scope of the CSL, and Toronto does have something to prove. They proved that last time, and a lot of that was done on the back of we want to say Avarice for some really great early aggression play, but I think a lot of that victory came down to Shadow Fiend's early support, Shadow Demon's early support, stacking in the jungle, like you said, using great stack patterns, and making sure that Alchemist had a very comfortable mid lane and total rune control on the top.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting turn, just because the way University of Toronto is already drafting, they do seem to be picking up a similar but distinctly global strategy with the Ember Spirit Lich, right? So Ember Spirit specifically is one of these heroes that typically is going to go into Boots of Travel so that he has that global potential. Try to stop any potential for split pushing. That does mean that UBC's apparent gank strategy could be very strong if University of Toronto don't draft a hard 4 core.
Absolutely.
Here.
Now, worth noting, I was told that UBC and Toronto preferred different servers. The last game we did play on Toronto's server. I'm not overly familiar with the layout of the Canadian province system, so I don't know which servers benefit which team, but I'm told UBC is playing on their preferred server this game, so we'll see if that affects them at all. Maybe some of their timing was off because of that server ping. Hard to tell. Toronto does pick up Ember Spirit, so that tells me that they're confident, at least, in their ability to play inside of a different server. I think he's one of those heroes that does determine a lot. You kind of have to have a good ping and a strong server to play an Ember Spirit successfully to really get off his skills. So
just for the record, the British Columbia is just north of Washington, and Toronto is in Ontario, which is just north of Pennsylvania, Ohio.
Oh, so that is a pretty big difference.
Right. It's a big gap. It's like if you had a team in New York playing a team from San Francisco or something.
That makes sense. So thank you to Mr. WonderCal for understanding Canadian geography.
I'm from Michigan. We have to know that stuff.
I think you dated a Canadian, too, for a very long time.
I did, yeah.
I imagine probably also plays into it.
She's from Montreal, so Canadian's a strong word, but, you know, she's from north.
Still wears denim, I imagine. That said, Queen of Pain and Tusk comes in for UBC. University of Toronto gets Lich and Ember Spirit. Both teams, like you said, Lich Ember going for that global feel, Queen of Pain Tusk going for that I want to jam this game down your face feel.
Yeah, they are taking a long time on these bans, but...
So, as we wait for that next ban, let's talk about the second ban. So, first stage ban of Slardar, not something you see in the pro scene. That seems to me like a 100% respect ban for Avarice's Slardar.
You actually would be surprised how much Slardar ban you've been seeing lately,
really?
Just because of his success. Yeah, he's been played a lot lately. So he's the 7th most banned hero in the last 10 days in Pro Dota. He's got like a 40% ban rate. He's been very, very, very successful. You normally wouldn't see that ban necessarily in that 4th slot. Typically, I would expect that ban to come out in the second ban phase more often than the first one. Because if your opponents pick it in the very first phase, then you know, okay, let's pick some heroes that aren't really that gankable. We'll pick a team that kind of groups up, and we'll pick a team that outfarms, right? And then we kind of get around the Slardar in that way. So he's better as a pick, usually in the second phase. So you usually wait till the second ban. So the priority of that definitely does seem like an honor ban.
Absolutely. And you got to respect that. Especially, like we said, this is not Pro Dota. This is Collegiate Dota. This is the NCAA to the NFL. These guys are not necessarily 7K players. Some of them, I heard rumors. We've got some Sixers on the game tonight. I don't know everybody's individual MMRs. That said, a lot of that value comes into heroes that people have mastered, and it seems like Avarice has a absolute mastery of that Slardar. I'm curious to see what he plays this time. If he played that initiation so gosh darn strong on the Slardar, I would hate to see him honestly on something like a Queen of Pain, who has even more potential to pop in and cause things to explode.
Unfortunately, Queen of Pain already picked up by UBC, but yeah, there are a lot of options. Doom has already been banned out, which is, once again, very smart. He's very, very popular right now in high levels of pub play. You still have a potential... Undying is gone. Night Stalker's gone. Man, they are pulling out a lot of the heroes that might be good for that sort of player in the offlane. Maybe a Spirit Breaker is available. That's another very gank-heavy potential offlaner that could be very strong. A Clockwork is moderately popular right now, and also a very strong potential ganker.
Come on, Wind Ranger.
A Wind Ranger could come out, not super successful at high levels of play, but we still see her a fair amount, so...
God, you hate her so much, but she's so
good. She's good. She's fine. She's good. She just has, like, a negative win rate. That's all. It's no big deal. She gets picked up about a quarter of pro games still, so it's not like she's a nobody.
A negative win rate, but a positive wind rate.
She has a positive impact on your heart. I know that.
Nyx Assassin going to get picked up by Toronto, so they get a little bit of gank of their own. Lion on the opposite side, as if UBC didn't have enough burst damage as it is. These guys are going to be looking to cause a lot of trouble. Is this the kind of lineup that you would see something like, never mind, I was going to say a Darkseer tossed into for the vacuum benefit, but Anti-Mage is going to get grabbed up for that farming. So they're going to create basically this is, let's make space for our Anti-Mage.
Yeah, that seems to be exactly what it is. It's 3 heavy gankers and an anti-mage, right? It's almost a sitcom. But Nyx Assassin is a great pick, especially with the Lion play coming out here. Nyx can pretty easily blow up that Queen of Pain and Lion. If he is out of the offlane and goes for a Dagon build, he should be able to just absolutely open up a ton of space through the mid game. If he goes for the Blink Dagger Force Staff support-ish build, which you can do out of either the offlane or as a support, then we're going to be looking at a lot more team fight potential. The Earthshaker implies that team fight build is going to be coming out, so probably an offlane Earthshaker support Nyx, but they still have a lot of options available for them.
Lots of options, and honestly, when you look at UBC's lineup with the Anti-Mage, the Tusk, and the Quap, they're going to be getting up close and personal, right? Blink ends, huge engagements. Earthshaker is just going to hang back, and then as soon as everybody engages, be able to just unleash hell with that ultimate. So I like that pickup. I think he's going to do a good job of putting some control on UBC. If Queen of Pain and Anti-Mage blink to safety, Tusk and Lion are sort of left behind the Fisher. So Toronto looks like they sort of understand what UBC is planning, and I like Earthshaker to sort of manage that momentum.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably as an offlaner is more than likely still required for UBC, and the only popular offlaners who are still in the pool are Clockwork and maybe Spirit Breaker, who is sometimes run out of the offlane by teams like Ninjas in Pajamas. So one of those two heroes is probably coming out for UBC, unless they're just going to pull out of meta or I'm missing something completely. Yeah. I guess Darkseer is still available.
I wouldn't mind seeing a Darkseer, honestly, on UBC's lineup right now.
I don't love a Darkseer in this lineup, but he does pair fairly well with the Tusk. So we'll see what they want to do.
I think it goes well with Tusk. I think Queen of Pain benefits from him. So, yeah, no, it should be an interesting pickup for them. That's clearly what they are considering right now. Who do we put in that offlane? Who's going to give us lots of space and additional pressure? I think Broodmother was a phenomenal ban by Toronto. I think Broodmother would have fit really well into this lineup. A very aggressive early game from the Lion, the Tusk, and the Queen. The split push from the Brood and the easy farm from Anti-Mage would have made it very difficult, I think, for Toronto to sort of deal with that, especially if you consider shifting that Brood over to the safe lane, you know, post 10 minutes and just making Anti-Mage super comfortable in the jungle.
Yeah. We are... I'm honestly surprised it's taking them this long to pick their last hero. But presumably they know what they have to do, right?
Mind games.
Giving University of Toronto more time to pick is the opposite of a mind game. That is like a stimulant for University of Toronto. Invoker. Okay. I understand why it took so long to make that pick because it's very atypical. So Queen of Pain offlane, Invoker mid, Anti-Mage farming carry, support Tusk, support Lion. Okay, that's all fine. Here we probably have an Ember Spirit mid, and I like the Invoker play, thinking that that's probably an Ember Spirit mid. I like the choice of an Invoker, assuming that it is an Exhort style Invoker. The physical damage is much higher on Invoker than it is on Queen of Pain, so you're taking away some of the value of that Flame Guard, right? If you get a higher physical damage mid. So that was probably the conversation they were having. I don't think the Queen of Pain was always considered their offlaner. But
interesting as
in this case, I can see the mentality, right?
Right. And also, I guess Tusk Lion, if you pair them out with the Anti-Mage going to get the last hits, going to get that early farm, because whoever's off-laning against them has to worry constantly about the potential for a pick-off. Once Tusk is at level 2, once Lion's at level 2, the ability to initiate and just sort of lock down is going to be astronomical. So UBC looks like they've got some strong lane positions. Toronto, what do they have to think about right now? I mean, they've got 11 seconds to come up with an answer for a hero that neither of us expected.
Yeah, they're going to grab a Razor, so they're going to switch their Ember Spirit over to the safe lane, and then Razor's going to be the mid. I think that's a great response.
Yeah, I think so
Razor
too.
fares very strongly up against ranged heroes. You have the Plasma Field in order to zone, and if you do have an Exhort-style Invoker who's very reliant on that last hit damage, you can steal a bunch with the Static Link. So, Azure is playing that Razor, so maybe that's an off-lane Razor. He did play the off-lane last time. Either that or they're switching their lanes up. I think switching lanes up is more likely.
Right. All right, so that's it. The picks are in. The lineups are there as everyone picks their model. Quick picks from Gorgon the Wonder Cow. Who do you think's got the better draft?
I lean toward University of Toronto just because that Nyx does so well against 3 of the intelligence heroes out of UBC, right? The Queen of Pain, the Lion, the Invoker. Nyx Assassin opens up a lot of opportunity. And U of T have absolutely exceptional counter initiation with the Lich and the Earthshaker specifically. So the blink/snowball initiation potential coming out of UBC is not nearly as scary against U of T's lineup as it normally would be.
Well, the lineups are in. This is game 2 of a best of 3 between University of Toronto and University of British Columbia in our Canadian Throwdown here on a Thursday night fight edition of the Collegiate Star League. My name's Toffees. I'm joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. Let's do some introductions. Mama Load is going to be playing the Anti-Mage. We're going to go next to Sinclair, who'll be running around on that Invoker. We're going to have Frosty Cakes on the Lion. Kwok will be played by Sorry. And last but not least, KCY looks like he will have the offlane Tusk.
All right, and for UFT, we've got Avarice taking the Nyx Assassin. Death is going to be taking the Earth Shaker. KY will be burning up on the Ember Spirit. Captain is going to be freezing over on the Lich, and Azure is making it electric on the Razor.
All right, the lineups are in. The players are ready. It's a 2-2 coming out from UBC as they stare down that top room, but they've got 4 waiting in the wings. Captain hiding in the trees, Azure on the high ground. U of T looks like they are wanting to make a play here. They're going to send KY in as the bait, but then they reveal everyone else. So we should see, yeah, there you go. Sinclair immediately turns around and says, "This is not for me," as Sorry will also get herself the bounty rune in the mid. So no big conflict on the runes. I wonder perhaps if U of T had waited a few more seconds to show themselves, if they might have got a first blood there.
I don't think that they had already been able to see across this gap for the Earthshaker. I can't draw for some reason across that gap for the Earthshaker. So I don't think UBC would have engaged too heavily there.
All right, now it looks like it's going to be a 2-1-2 coming out of University of Toronto as they're going to put that Razor with Death up on the top lane, and they are going to send Captain down towards the bottom to join Avarice. Okay.
Now this is weird. This is weird to me, the way that they're laning this. I feel like the Razor would fare fairly well into the Invoker, and the Ember Spirit probably won't fare nearly as well. So this whole decision making coming out of U of T, I'm sure they know what they're doing and what their players' preferences are, but the decisions seem odd to me.
Right, and now again, there is to keep in mind the idea of player preference and position, right? Because playing an off lane or a hard farm versus a mid is a very different position to play, very different mechanical skills required, and sometimes, you know, especially at this level, you can't just swap where a player is going with their hero, and you can't necessarily just swap heroes either. So it seems like U of T may have found themselves in that situation. Frosty Cakes is going to find Death a little bit out of position, forces him around the long way, so Death going to have to take a slow walk back to his lane. Nice shard shot to do a little extra damage on Death. Locks him in. KCY closing. Doesn't really, maybe. That shard lasted a very long time. KCY continues. Frosty Cakes did not get the memo in time, though, so he won't be able to get into space to use his stun. Death eats a tree on the run. KCY continues to chase. Has his ice shards available. Will catch Death inside. Frosty Cakes will close. Gets caught inside the Fisher, but that's not going to matter. Picked up, knocked down. Boom! That's a first blood. A long, drawn-out first blood. Probably the easiest first blood I've ever caught. But a very nice play by UBC. Tenacity.
Yeah, so I haven't seen this matchup that often, so I was kind of going by gut on the Invoker Ember Spirit, but I did just look up some stats on it, and we are looking at it about 6 minutes. You're talking about a 25% CS advantage to the Invoker. So that's a serious change of advantage going the way of UBC just based on statistical advantage.
And keeping in mind that last time around, Sinclair lost that mid lane as the Shadow Fiend had a tough go of it against that Alchemist, played by KY. So maybe flip-flopping it this time, giving the advantage to Sinclair, will give UBC a little more of a chance going into this early game, because they just lost that mid spot, didn't have the Shadow Fiend ready for team fights when they came up. We'll see how it goes. KY is going to go ahead and pop the Flame Guard, chases Sinclair, takes a little bit of damage, but Sinclair able to just sort of zone him back and keep his health up. Azure taking some damage from Mamalode, gets a little bit of his damage taken away, jumps backwards. Here comes a rotation from Death, looking to get in behind with the Fisher. Sinclair out of spot. Can the Fisher do it? He tries to pull, decides not to. There it is. Makes the hit, gets the stun. Captain with the right clicks, but KY not interested in closing. Flame Guard was still on cooldown, so they will just continue the last hit. Sinclair getting harassed pretty hard, as he does still have that salve, though, so he will stay in lane. Nice play by KY, puts up the shot with the Searing Chains, but again, Flame Guard wasn't available, so Sinclair will back away with 150 health. Flame Guard might have been a kill there.
I don't think so. I think it would have been maybe a death. Honestly, the right clicks coming out of the Invoker were there, and the Lich had gone. If the Lich was there, it would have certainly been a kill, but the Lich has started to rotate down to try and offset some of the equilibrium for Azure's favor here.
Sorry is taking a little bit of damage from Captain, but turns around, pops him hard, initially goes in, makes some plays. Sorry wants to finish Captain. One more right click will do it. Down he goes. Sees Azure. Azure puts up the link. Sorry got to run. 8 seconds left on the blink. Can she get away? Azure wants to finish the job. One more right click would have done it with the 56 damage, but it's not enough. Can't get into range, and Sorry will waltz back to base.
He would have gotten that if he had been attack walking the whole time, but he just kind of stood here, not sure which direction the Queen of Pain was going to run.
You gotta make, you gotta make that guess. You gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah, he should have probably guessed, because Death was coming around this way, right? So if the Queen of Pain went down that way, Death might have been able to clean it up.
Sinclair goes on to KY. KY backs off, gets immediately TP by Captain. Captain on the move in this game, all over the place. TP comes in to help out Sinclair. Here comes Sorry, wants to move on KY. Blinks in, gets the right click, finish the job. Can he? Goes to the high ground, has the vision, throws the dagger, closes inside a tower range. Sorry taking some damage. The backup is there. Sorry gets the kill, but at what cost? He's on the run. Can he escape? He will escape. He gets off to safety. A nice pick. They lost Sinclair and the Ember Spirit, but also Earthshaker went down in the exchange. So the benefit to UBC, as Sorry is all, I was going to say Lich is all over this map, but Sorry is not going to be outdone.
That is great for the Earthshaker. It's a little boost toward his Blink Dagger. So it's not the end of the world for them. They did end up getting more gold out of that, just not necessarily on the right heroes.
Let's look at Avarice. He's got double mangoes and his Orb of Venom up here on the top lane. He's 11-0 up against a 23-10 Mamalode, and Mamalode hasn't really had the help of the supports, but is still managing to stay very relevant in terms of far against Avarice. Avarice comes in, gets up the stud, lots of harassment. Mamalode going to force him backwards. Mamalode does still have that salve, though, so she can stay in, take a few more hits. KY pops the Flame Guard in the mid, wants to chase down Sinclair. Here comes the rotation for Frosty Cakes. Almost in position, almost in hex range, but good play by KY, and a better play by the Fisher to say, you leave my Ember alone. Ice Shards come out, they catch KY. In comes the Snowball. Can Frosty Cakes get there in time? Yes, he will. Follows with the stun, opens with the hex. Death comes to us all, but for you, Ember Spirit, it comes at the hands of a Tusk.
Yeah, that once again, just nice engagements coming out of UBC, really throwing U of T off their rhythm and not letting U of T start to get that momentum. Once the Ember Spirit gets up the Boots of Travel, he's much harder to lock down. The Nyx is going to start causing trouble here pretty soon. He's almost level 6. At that point in time, it's going to be much more difficult for UBC to get ahead if they're not already ahead, right? So being ahead now is really key for their mid-game strategy.
All right, now let's take a look up at the top where Mamalode's going head-to-head with Avarice and Captain. Gold lead, they're going to go over the net worth right now, and all three of the net worth leaders are on the dire side for UBC. Up 5-1, doing very well. Here comes a blink from Mamalode, wants to go on Avarice. Sinclair's here to help. Avarice dropping very low, though. Vengeance is there. Sinclair and Mamalode get that vengeance from the last game. Go on Captain. Captain in some trouble. Frosty is going to drain all of his mana. Mamalode going to drain all of his life.
Not much else to see here, folks. That's
really,
that's
death.
a crime scene. Draw the little chalk, people, because there was murder up here.
Murder. That's it. I mean, honestly, though, this is exactly opposite of the last game, right? UBC off to a fast start, already up at 3K gold, XP advantage of 2,000, and that's without the Alchemist benefit there, as they are definitely executing their strategy. U of T behind, is that to be expected? Uh-oh, here comes Death, in some trouble. Big roll by KCY, caught in the ice shards. Can't do much, gonna have KY go in. Tries to make a play, gets up the stun from Searing Chains. Sinclair now going to back away. Still pretty healthy. Got lots of regen coming off the back of the Quas. And KCY walks up. What's the comeback potential of U of T's lineup? Are they in that same situation we saw UBC where it starts to feel hopeless, or are they just waiting to come online?
I think they're waiting to come online right now. They're definitely far behind, and it will be a struggle to come back, but they're only 3,000 gold back, right? They haven't lost towers yet. They haven't lost map control. They do have decent aggressive vision for the Knicks. There are opportunities here. The key is that they just need to make sure that they're getting those opportunities maximized when they have them.
All right, so that's what we're waiting to happen. I mean, up on top, Avarice has not left the lane yet. He's level 6. Does now have that Vendetta to go on rotations if he wants to, but his lane's not been the greatest for him, so he's going to stick around, try to get a little more farm in his Is that a lobster cosmetic? I think it smells like a lobster.
Oh, mid.
Oh, mid looks like a fight there. KY Sinclair. Sinclair misses the tornado, which is going to give KY a little bit of a benefit. He turns back around with the Flame Guard going, but here comes Sorry! Blinks in, screams out, misses! But will it still be enough? KY ticking low from the damage of the dagger. He's going to live, and Sorry is... Oh, no, I'm sorry. It goes 2 down. So we lost the Lich and we lost the Ember. Ember did die to the slow tick, I think, didn't he? No, he died to Lion with a nice play. Yeah. Oh, Lion, nice job, Frosty Cakes. So Frosty Cakes comes on the wraparound. KCY shows up to help. They lost the Queen of Pain, but at the end of the day, 3 go down on the side of University of Toronto. That's a 500 gold gain net for UBC, and they now can push into this middle tower. I mean, UBC just seems to be a totally different team this time around. It's almost like they maybe underestimated Toronto in the last game, gave them a little too much leniency, and then this time around said, no, we are going to be playing the game that we know we can play.
Yeah, I think another part of the issue is that last game for U of T, the strategy, the draft was all about efficiency and aggression. And this game, it's all about time and opportunity, right? They need to buy enough time for a Blink Dagger on the Earthshaker, for Ember Spirit to get Boots of Travel, for Nyx to get level 11, for a lot of these opportunities to start to come together. They will try to get Sinclair. I'm not sure if they'll be able to.
Avarice is here, comes in, has the stun available. Sinclair's going to get hit from the back. Mana burn. Sinclair drops low. KCY comes in to help, but nobody else did. He doesn't care. Shards out, wants to go. KY pops the Searing, or the Flame Guard, and they will back away. And the gank squad, Sorry and Frosty Cakes, popped a smoke, tried to come in from the wrap, decided it's not worth the trouble, and that is what they have done. We talked about their early aggression, that they would try to use UBC. That's what they're doing. Sorry and Frosty Cakes running around together as a tag team of doom, looking to get Captain and Azure here on the bottom lane, closing the gap. Meanwhile, Avarice says, look at this. We got a rune saved up for you, KY, who'll fill out his bottle. Sorry and Frosty Cakes waiting for their opportunity. Can they go in here on the Razor? Little bit dangerous. Wraparound coming from Death. He's going to try to come in. There they go. Big play. Frosty Cakes from the back. Azure gets stunned. Sorry, will be able to finish the job. Frosty Cakes drop low. Drains Captain of the mana. Sinclair has come to help. Out comes the Ember Spirit. Wants to make a move to finish off Frosty Cakes. Frosty Cakes will go down. Captain may as well as the out comes the dagger. Turns back on Sorry. Sorry in some trouble. Blinks because KY tried to close the distance instead of keeping the gap. And Sorry will escape. So it goes 1 for 1. Razor for a Lion. That's an exchange that UBC will be very happy with.
Yeah, you take that exchange most days of the week, especially considering the Invoker did get a bolt.
It's not over, though, because Sorry sees Death, but Death sees Sorry. Hits him with the Fisher, goes on the run. Sinclair wants to follow, throws out the Tornado, shifts to a Cold Snap, it looks like, not going to be needed. Down goes the Earthshaker, and they'll continue this push as they brought 4 heroes in. Big Snowball, KY caught out. He's going to need a little bit. Oh, I don't even know, man. KY will not be slipping away on this one. As in comes... Sorry, Captain tries to TP to help, but all he's going to do is TP to Death. Sinclair goes invisible, and they wipe out 3 heroes and will take this tower, or that TP, ill-conceived by the Ember.
This reminds me of Complexity versus EG Game 2 at the upper bracket of the International. I don't know if you remember that game, but there was just Complexity teleporting into their off lane and just dying over and over in this meat grinder, and you just watch... And your heart goes out to them because you can tell they're starting to tilt and that they just need kills. They feel like they're falling too far behind. The only way to catch up is to re-engage. they're buying back and they're dying, and that's the sort of stuff that we're seeing here too. U of T, they're completely ignoring the anti-mage, just letting him do whatever he wants. The Nyx isn't rotating. Nobody else is rotating either. Oof. Now the anti-mage is going to get away because of missed stuns. It's very rough for
Anti-Mage goes away. Sinclair harasses mid, forces back Azure, but immediately Sorry and Frosty Cakes on the wraparound. Azure's got the ultimate running. They don't even care. They go straight in, burn him down. He's going to drop. Out comes the TP from Death, but it arrives too late, and UBC will fade into the night, aggressively taking the fights to them. Death comes in, Fishers. Frosty Cakes, though, was out of tower range, so it didn't work as well as Earthshaker had hoped it would. Death now going to hide in the trees and pray for help, as the guys from UBC start to close in on this Tier 1, looking to wrap up and take away the farm of the guys from University of Toronto. Their chances to get back in. This is the rotation now by Avarice, thinking about coming in. Gonna go from behind. Sinclair needs to be careful. They're pinging him out, saying, let's do this thing. Out comes the stun, but he's turned into a frog. Beautiful Hex rolls from the other side. Avarice in some trouble. EMP, Walrus, Punch, and Death for the Nyx Assassin. Avarice not having near the game he had last time around. UBC now knows the key and are doing everything they can to isolate this Nyx. Captain continues to push forward. Out comes the Ice Shard. He has his ultimate. He's trying to find a position to utilize it. Fish are going to come out. Nice link by Azure. We should see Captain throw his ulti. There it is. Going to hit Sinclair and KCY. Boom, boom, boom. And they drop 2.
That was a very nice re-engagement by U of T. Not to understate it. It's not going to be all of a sudden they're back in the game, but in a big way, they have the advantage now that they need. A lot of that gold went onto the Lich, which is not the hero that you want it on. None of it went on the Nyx, which is one of the heroes that you do want it on. He's very underfarmed. But some of it ended up on the Emperor and Earthshaker. So, you know, it's nice. It's a good hold me over until better days moment.
Anime's just barely escaped a gank on the top. You know what I like about our partnership? I like when we have these big hype fights. And then, you know, I get overly excited, and then you come back and you say things like, well, that went well for them. Yeah, it makes me smile. Unlike Death, who is not smiling right now because he came in, thought he got an anti-mage, and happily was trying to escape. KCY going to hit him in the face. Here comes Sinclair. EMP. Nice use of the spikes to try and buy some space. Ice Shards will come out, catches Death, and Death will live up to his namesake. Meanwhile, Quap continues the fight, finishes Lich. There's the wraparound. Azure going to come in, pops his ultimate, gets up the link, going to go to Snowball for safety reasons. KY in as well. Here comes Quap to finish KY. Wants to take that fight and will do so. Tusk goes down to Azure, but now Azure is out in the open, gonna chase Sinclair. Sinclair gonna kite basically till Sari's got the mana to come in. Matt, go ahead and get that bottle running. Here comes Frosty Cakes. They're closing on Azure. Azure could be in some trouble here. Sari gonna come in, gets the slow. There's the stun. Azure is rocked, shocked, EMP'd, blocked, and probably gonna die here as everyone from UBC wants to make that happen. But the fight's not over as Captain comes in. Blink away by Sari. Just barely gets out. 34 HP as he'll go back to base.
What I will say about that fight is that they killed the anti-mage before that Battle Fury came out, which is crucial. That helps a lot. Now, granted, they ended up losing quite a bit of gold because they did not engage into that fight very well. U of T, that is.
Nice Echo Slam. Here comes the Ember. Wants to try to make KCY pay. He's got the help of Avarice as the wraparound comes. They go 1 for 1 there on that exchange in the mid position. However, Anti-Mage, I think he got the kill, and then he backed away safely. So getting that Battle Fury out is tantamount for Anti-Mage, and he will, I believe, be very close to finishing after that.
Well, maybe not.
Here comes Avarice. He's low. He's going to go. Avarice doesn't do it. He's waiting. Here's his chance. This is it.
Oh, it's even easier here because he's even lower. Yeah, game over. Very nice.
Nice job. Avarice just slow plays it, makes the track, knows exactly where Anti-Mage is going to go. When Anti-Mage gets a gank and rotates, you know he's headed to the jungle. Sinclair goes, oh, I found me a bug! Avarice instead going to go ahead and use that Spike Carapace to get himself out of trouble. Sinclair tries, but not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any locking down that Nyx alone as that invoker in this particular case, especially with Spike Carapace. But you got to try, right? Throw out what you can.
Absolutely. All right, so let's do a quick item check. Sari and Sinclair on UBC, both about to finish up their Orchid. So it looks like it's going to be a double Orchid build from UBC here, which should be pretty interesting. In comes Sari, wants to go on Azure. I missed the kill on the
Nyx
invoker.
things.
Just Nyx things. Sari, though, goes just just Quap things and finishes off that Razor down the bottom. So for one, there must be another, and UBC seems to always search for an answer. Anytime that they've lost someone in this game, they've immediately come back and taken someone. Price of blood.
Nyx is starting to play this game the way that I would like to see him playing the game. Going back for mana every time he ganks, coming back out with the strength of a potential gank coming out of the Vendetta, and just trying to force UBC to keep their bloody heads in the ground long enough for this Ember Spirit to really get going, for the Earthshaker to finish up a Blink Dagger. It took them a while to get to where they are, but I think they're sitting much better now than they were maybe 10 minutes ago. You know, they're not yet even 7,500 gold in deficit. The Ember Spirit does have Travs up. Things could be going worse here for U of T. They're still not by any means out of the woods.
Right.
But they are not on the plate either, right?
Yep, absolutely. So gold lead at about 6,000 for UBC. XP is almost at 5. University of Toronto will not throw in the towel, though. As you said, they're bringing the fight back. Looking for some frosty cakes here. Nyx hunting. He gets pinged out because they do have started to put up some vision. Frosty Cakes making sure he got up Sentry Wards to try and keep an eye on this Nyx, who's been a huge problem. Vision on Tusk, but that's about it for UBC.
Yeah, they are doing a good job of keeping sentries down, as you mentioned. The unfortunate miss micro of that illusion from Queen of Pain did give away one of them, so now we're starting to see some of those sentries get dropped. But, you know, it's a small price to pay to have scouted out with the illusion, right?
Definitely. Found it out. Now we're going to look towards the bottom where Azure out of position. Going to get caught by Frosty Cakes again. He's got the Blink Dagger up. Sorry comes in. Frosty Cakes saved the stun. Ice Shards. Walrus Punch. Razor, man, this has not been a great game for Razor. UBC has literally made a point of hunting him down. He's 2-5. Sorry is 10-1 right now.
I'm getting mixed signals here from U of T, just with their build. The Lich is trying to rush out a mechanism, so that implies that they want a team fight, but the Nyx is going for an Ags. That's sort of a team fight item, but it's not nearly as effective as a team fight item as like a Force Staff would be. So yeah, the whole team seems to have maybe slightly different ideas as to what the right path is, and I'm wondering if that itemization is going to come back and hurt them.
So let me, and I'll be honest with you, I liked having you here. You're an expert in some of these mechanical skill things. Hold on, I'll talk about that in a second. Sinclair going in on Death. Death is found, no help to be had. And a nice UBC pickoff on the Earthshaker. It's not over as they find Captain. Frost kicks that Blink Dagger, putting in some work. Draining mana like a boss. Ice Shard for Captain. Finger to the face. Tusk finishes the job. Meanwhile, in the mid position, Starry wants to go on KY. Pushes him backwards, but Sinclair, with the Ghost Walk, looks like he wants to make something happen. He'll see Azure and the double and have to back away. I don't think he can gauge into this. But I was going to ask you, I don't fully understand the Nyx Ags. So for those of us who maybe haven't put a lot of time into Nyx, I know that it's cheeky. I don't fully understand how it synergizes with the team.
All right, so here's the basic run of it, right? It gives him the ability to stun from a really long distance and hold still underground while invisible. While he's underground, he has the ability to heal much faster than he normally would. Oh, we're maybe seeing an engagement.
I got that top. Now we go to middle where it looks like they might have a follow-up. Sorry gets caught by Death. Death moves in. Stun is there. Ultimate from the Lich. It's going to bounce to the creeps. Do they get lucky? They don't. Sorry gets away. Unfortunate bounce there. Sinclair comes in, sees Azure. Azure's out in front. Fisher comes through. Frosty Cakes misses the stun. Could have been a double, but the ulti from Sorry is going to put in some work. Gets what? Here comes everyone else. Captain is now involved. KCY Sorry finished the job, and that makes it a double. Make that a triple as a 3-for-1 across the board. And UBC, with that fast rotation, shows U of T that even under their Tier 2 tower, they cannot safely pursue a fight.
So back on this Nyx Ags, basically it makes him heal faster if he's holding still underground. He's invisible. He can stun from a much farther range. I think it's a 300 range increase, but I'm not 100% sure on that. He can also hit Mana Burn from a greater range, and I believe his Burrow Strike has a smaller cooldown. So all things considered, it gives him a lot more options for stationary fighting, but it's not great as a chasing item. It's not great as a counter-initiation item. It's really great for like high ground defense, tower defense, that sort of stuff.
Which it looks like they may need in this game if it continues at this pace.
Yeah, I just don't know that I would rush it out or that I would encourage it being rushed out in this case. It seems almost defeatist to say we're going to need the Ags. Even if we get some mobility items, we can't win fights.
Now, even as we say that, Mamalo takes the bottom tower all by his lonesome, then goes ahead and farms their jungle as he runs away, not willing to risk coming back for the illusion rune, just lets it sit. Sinclair going to push the top tower as he saw TPs go to the bottom to try to force back that anti-mage. We're going to see Razor come out to contest. Sinclair will drop back just for safety reasons. Orchid available on him for the next fight. We've got Mech almost done on the Tusk, and Lion in that hard support position, but happy with the Blink Dagger. Here comes Nyx. He's invisible. Gets the Ice Shard is proc. They know he's there. Immediately, Frosty Cakes pops vision. Avarice gets caught on all sides. Burns down. The probing Ice Shards pays dividends in the form of a dead Avarice. Sorry on the bottom wants to go for Captain. Captain's alone. He's isolated. His team is pinging him saying, "What are you doing?" Sorry says, I'm tasty.
The itemization is starting to get really one-sided here. We have almost second-tier items coming out. Actually, Yasha just finished on Mamalode, and BKB very close to finish on Sorry. We just now started getting tier 1 items out for Radiant side, for U of T. And that's not even including the Nyx, who's really far behind, and his quote-unquote tier 1 item is going to be that Ags, which he's still 3,000 away from.
Death gets knocked down, pops the Echo as he lands. Now we see Sinclair in a little bit of trouble, but he goes invisible. Azure gets turned into a frog. Nice blink by Frosty Cakes. The TPs come in from all sides. KCY gonna try to get himself out of trouble. He's wicked fast though. Throws up the Ice Shards defensively and will go for a TP. Escaped.
Oh.
Nice play.
Avarice could get a kill here on the Queen of Pain.
Queen of Pain jumps across, wants to go on KY. Mamalode's here to help. Big stun by Avarice. Turns back. Sorry, taking damage. Pops the BKB. Jumps away. Mamalode could be in some trouble. He's also low. Blink is up, though. Big play with the bounce from the Lich. Not going to have anybody to go to. So Sinclair and the rest of the crew blink to safety and walk away with low health. U of T doing everything they can to try to get these kills, but it's just not panning out. Gold lead almost 20,000 for UBC. XP at 16. And this game is almost a mirror replica of the last one. The last game did end at 29 minutes though, so you could argue maybe Toronto putting up a little bit of a better fight than UBC did last time around. Maybe.
Yeah, UBC doesn't. Here's the thing: they don't have the same draft. Like
True.
For mid-game, for push, they don't have a great high ground attack. They just have decent team fight, and they executed very well in the early game.
Sinclair forces the cancellation of the TP. Backs away now. Avarice goes invisible, but he is being flanked on all sides. Quap tries to go in and use the AoE, as does Mamalo, but Avarice has gone into the jungle to dodge it. Rest of the team coming out. Avarice going to play the scout role. Finds himself some Mamalo, tries to track him down. They ping because there was an accidental body block. Immediately the sentry goes down. Avarice doesn't know about it. He'll walk into it. Big stun though. Frosty Cakes gets hit, but Mamalo drops the ulti. Avarice pops the spikes. Will it be enough? It will be 1-for-1, but now the fight continues. Captain in very deep. He's surrounded by red on all sides. He's going to go down. KY tries to get to safety. Can't do it. The stun locks are there. U of T in some trouble. All sides. That's a 4-man kill. Azure in the middle lane, and the GG comes out. So it was a flip. Last time UBC won the game in 29, and it looks like, or I'm sorry, U of T won in 29. It looks like UBC is going to take it in 25 and push us to a game 3 in this Collegiate Star League face-off of University of Toronto versus University of British Columbia. What a game! It was exact opposites. UBC showing us that they're not to be trifled with. Boy, that was fun.
Yeah, then maybe we're going to see another absolute slaughterfest one way or the other in game 3. Or maybe both teams will bring their A game. We'll have just an absolutely epic CSL match.
That's what the hope is. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV. Joined by my co-caster, Gorgon the Wonder Bovine. You can find him at The Wonder Cow over on Twitter. Don't forget to follow us at C Star League on Twitter, as well as check out our Facebook page on the bottom of the stream. If you're watching in the game client, thank you for watching, though I encourage you to come visit us on Twitch, participate in the chat, have a good time, banter about your college, guys. Stick around. We're going to play some music and come back for Game 3 in this matchup between University of Toronto and UBC. The decider is on the way, boys and girls, and as always, Toffee's out. Welcome back to the Collegiate. I got really lost there for a second. Collegiate Star League, guys. My name is Topies. You can follow me at Topies TV. I'm joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can find him at the Wonder Cow over on Twitter. This is University of Toronto versus University of British Columbia in Game 3 of this best-of-3 matchup between these two teams from the Northern 1 Division. Man, that was maybe it was a long night. Maybe I just forgot how to say words. But what an introduction! This game has been very interesting, right? These are two evenly matched teams. Both have undefeated records. Both dropped a game to the same team. University of Toronto, UBC. University of Toronto wins the first game in an overwhelming 29 minutes. UBC wins the second game in an overwhelming 25 minutes. What are you looking for in the third round of drafts?
I want both teams to grab their optimal comfort zone so we can see both teams at their A game. Because right now I feel like University of Toronto not anywhere near their A game last time. UBC not anywhere near their A game the first game. I would like to see both these teams in their prime so we can get a really great bloodbath going.
Yeah, classic. I want bloodbath. Give me violence. Give me team fight. That's what we love. Shadow Fiend gets picked up by UBC. That was in Sinclair's hands in the first game and did not go that well initially. Later on, he got some good plays in, had some good damage output, but early was really shut down in lane by his opponent. Interesting they pick him up again. It is also worth noting the first game when UBC got crushed, they were playing on the server that they did not prefer. They've had US West. They won the coin flip and picked US East this time, which is the server that they played the last game on when they did very well. So they actually yielded the first, or I guess they yielded the side selection to Toronto in order to get server advantage, which I think speaks perhaps to how important that is to them.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the server should make such a big difference that it will completely impact the sort of draft they do. But it might. Maybe they don't want to take too many skill shots because they're playing with, a quarter second of ping difference or something. For some players, that makes a huge difference. I know I have trouble playing personally with more than a third of a second of lag.
Yeah.
Up until there, about I can do handle it. At that point, I can't anymore. That's usually you get less lag than that moving east to west, but not always. It depends on the person, their location, their computer, their access to the server, whether or not they run a VPN, what their school's network is like. So there are a lot of factors that I can't answer regarding that. Right.
And it looks like UBC Sinclair had a tough first game, and maybe that is he's a hero that is hurt by lag, so maybe the ping will help him play that a little more executively. UBC looks like they want to make the most over that low ping, and they pick up a Queen of Pain as well. So lots of initiation, lots of skill shot potential for UBC. University of Toronto goes with the Undying, goes with that Gyrocopter. Looks like they want to have a powerful lane and some quality team fight.
Yeah, and I think that plays to their strengths. I do like the Undying pick here as well, coming out of University of Toronto. I mean, both of these teams do well when they have ganky team fighting drafts. Both of them have done very well with that. So I would love to see just very ganky team fighty teams so that we can just have a dogpile in the mid lane. We should just change it to all random deathmatch. Right. Both these teams would love it, I think.
Old school CIS style of play. As I guess it's new school too. CIS has still been very aggressive in the last patch. That said, okay, so we've got, so far we see the pickouts. We know sort of what each team's thinking of putting together in terms of T-Fight and gank. We see the Animage knocked out by Toronto, so a bit of respect for what UBC did last time with the Animage. They knock out the Ancient Apparition so that Undying doesn't have any form of counter on the Soul Rip. I think a good ban there. I like the ban of the Spirit Breaker to really try to keep that control, to keep University of Toronto from having their own sort of gang squad develop. Alchemist now picked up by University of Toronto, and this is the matchup that went down last time in the mid. Alchemist versus Shadow Fiend, and Toronto absolutely far and away crushed that matchup. This time, though, the Lich was banned, so University of Toronto will not have the benefit of the Lich to help out that Alchemist in the first 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I think that Lich was very key for University of Toronto's success in that game, just trying to offset some of the Shadow Fiend's ability to scale. And also bear in mind that the Shadow Demon was a huge part of that success as well, because he was able to stack 2 camps at once. Not a lot of sports can do that. So if University of Toronto go with a more traditional support other than the Shadow Demon, somebody who can only stack one camp, and they can't dual lane the mid as successfully as they did, the Alchemist may be wholly less effective than he was the first game.
Definitely, and I think that that's what UBC will be going for. I expect to see even more pacemakers picked up here by UBC, presumably looking for their first support grab of this match. Would not surprise me to see them go with something like a Lion again. That Queen of Pain Lion combo that we saw in the last game was very, very effective. They stuck to each other very well. Frosty Cakes made sure that if Queen of Pain went anywhere, he was right along with her, and the two of them just terrified their opponent's jungle, which with an Alchemist is something that you definitely want to try to do again. Earthshaker gets picked up, a very similar style of play. I actually like this because it means that he'll be going in. He can sort of counter this team fight that Toronto is going to be putting together. And of course, how does his Echo Slam interact with the zombies from the Tombstone?
It doesn't.
Okay, I thought so. Wanted to make sure of that. So he doesn't get that benefit. However, it does give the benefit of coming in. You're going to have Gyrocopter wanting to get up close. You're going to have Undying in very tight. Alchemist in there as well. I think Earthshaker will do a good job of sort of controlling and dispersing these large engagements.
Yeah. Once again, this is sort of the stuff that UBC likes to do as far as we've been able to tell. They like to get some counter initiators that have the potential to move in after a blink initiation from possibly Queen of Pain or an Anti-Mage, something like that. So far, the Winter Wyvern is interesting as a pick, honestly, here. It could be very good. It is that strong counter initiation, which University of Toronto kind of needed. Right now, they had a lot of ways to get into a fight, but not a ton of ways to turn the fight, since usually getting into it, you already dropped the Tombstone. You may have already dropped the Call Down. If you reserve one of those spells for the counter initiation, that's great, but then your initiation is weaker. With the Winter Wyvern, if they get pushed back into, then they will have the ability to just turn the fight on ahead, and they can always initiate with that and then save the Call Down for later.
So I'm really curious about how the Winter's save is going to synergize against UBC, who has a ton of magical damage output. Add to that Lina. Winter Wyvern's going to have the heal, but it seems like, especially in the early game, it's not going to be as effective as it generally would be. Lina, Shadow Fiend, Quap, Earthshaker, they all have the ability to sort of continuously do damage, even after the save goes out.
Yeah, this continues to be an interesting draft from UBC. Very, like, meta heroes.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the Lina come out yet, but they did play with the Lion, who functionally works very similarly. He's got a stun, right? He has a giant nuke. Lina does get into the late game much better than the Lion does, and has a lot of potential right-click. She has slightly better nuke potential as well than the Lion, so it is different, but it'll probably play similarly to the way that they played last time.
I like her, especially, I mean, I like her pickup. I think she plays similarly, but I do believe that she's a little bit greedier than the Lion is. Lion get a blink, happy, but when you compare,
you don't even need the blink, honestly. Like, that's a fairly modern thing, blink on Lion, right?
And I'm worried though that UBC's overall draft right now is a little bit too greedy. Now that said, they could flip Lina to the mid lane if they wanted to, put Shadow Fiend into a safe farm. They've got options, but if they leave Lina as a support here with the Earthshaker, it just feels like they want too much. And University of Toronto, who's going to have that gold advantage early on, may make them pay dearly for it.
I'm trying to figure out what UBC is going to do. I assume that's a Queen of Pain. No, Earthshaker off lane. Queen.
I mean, right now,
I'm not sure. Right. To be honest, I'm not sure.
I will say there's a little bit of beauty to the UBC draft, and that there's so many options for placement right now. You know, you've got that Quap, who right now I feel like it's going to be
Toronto. Think that it's an offlane Queen of Pain.
I think it's an offlane Queen, Shadow mid, and then Lina support along with the Earthshaker. But
that's what the University of Toronto is banking on as well. I think that's the most likely scenario because they don't have anything that carries super hard right now.
Well,
so right now, if they pick up another support or another offlaner, they absolutely have to face tank. through the early game. Just get a huge advantage early.
You also know Sinclair has a Shadow Fiend. They've seen it before. You know that Queen of Pain was run very effectively in UBC's offlane in the last match. So you sort of have this precursor of what UBC likes. So I think Toronto's making a smart choice by assuming that that's the way it's going to go. That said, UBC has heroes that can very comfortably shift from lane to lane, so we'll see how they answer it. Darkseer didn't come out in the last one, but he did come out in this one. He is going to be the offlaner for University of Toronto, making lots of space, lots of ability for Alchemist to sort of just aggressively farm, and I presume get stuff online for everybody. Is this going to be a Radiance early to fight Alchemist, or is this going to be a farm Ags and hand them out like candy?
It's going to be Radiance into probably some sort of active fighting ability, either BKB or possibly going into a Maelstrom or something. And then probably we'll see an Ags come out for the Undying around that 25-minute mark, and then more farming for the Alchemist.
Makes sense.
That's what I would expect.
That Ag's very strong on the Undying, especially at 25 minutes. If you can hand that to a support Undying, it really helps that transition of him into the 4 position comfortably. Sniper gets picked up by UBC, so he's confident that Toronto doesn't have the gank potential to close those gaps. Mamalo going to try to keep his distance and allow the zoning of Earthshaker and Lina to allow him the space to put out damage. It's an interesting pickup.
Yeah, certainly is an interesting pickup. I don't know that I love it here. The nice thing about the Sniper is that it kind of stays back away from the Winter Wyvern, right? Kind of away from the Gyrocopter. The bad thing is that you're looking at a Darkseer who can close gaps very quickly, and Sniper doesn't do so well into those gap closers. I don't love the Sniper pick right now, to be honest.
We shall see as this Game 3 throwdown, University of Toronto and UBC Dota, does that Sniper pickup make you feel that the draft advantage goes to Toronto?
Yeah, I think Toronto has this, just based on draft. I think that they drafted to their strengths, that we've seen these are their strengths, and I think their draft synergizes a little bit better.
Okay. Well, that said, the game is underway. We'll see who had the better draft and who plays it better as the Game 3 of UBC versus U of T takes off. Introductions of the two teams. For the dire side, University of Toronto, we are going to have Azure playing that Alchemist. We're going to have Death on the Darkseer. We're going to have Captain playing that Winter Wyvern. A little bit of a pause comes out as we get everybody sort of fixed up here. Looks like some connection issues. Avarice going to be playing that Undying, so that is going to be an offlane Undying, I suppose.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
KY on the Gyrocopter flying upside down. It's a pretty sweet time to pause.
Well, the weird thing, I don't think it's an offlane Undying, but I think it's the Death is the support player. So offlane Undying is not that weird. Not having the Darkseer in the offlane is weird, though.
Right.
That's the weird thing.
So it is. It's I guess the support Darkseer is a strange pick, but maybe something that at this stage in a Game 3, a pocket that they've been working on, this is the time to pull it out, right?
Yeah, if they have a strategy that's odd and weird that could usurp UBC's comfort zone, then yeah, now's the time to do it. Actually, last game was the time to do it, right? Because they had the 1-game advantage. There was no risk to screwing up, but they can still do it now. It's not.
That's true. That's a good point. So let me let's do introductions for the Radiant side.
All right, so we are going to be moving over here to Sinclair on the Shadow Fiend. Mama Load is staying back on the Sniper. Queen of Pain is blinking around, and that's sorry. KCY is burning up on the Lina, and Frosted Cakes is stomping the ground with the Earthshaker.
And that said, we move into our positions in this match. Frosty Cakes goes down to check the rune. Looks like it's going to be a top UBC rune and a bottom U of T rune. Both of these games, both teams have brought everyone, or just about everyone, to contest these runes, but they have consistently, in all 3 games, basically just split the pickup. Now, obviously, you expect that to happen because of the fact that they've got the Alchemist in this match, and I think that that's the right choice by UBC to make sure that they at least secure one, and there's no chance that Alch gets the double early rune.
Yeah, so making sure that Alchemist does get the starting rune is pretty key here. And it's worth combining your entire team just to make sure that he gets that, especially since, once again, we've seen this matchup already once. It ended up working out very well for the Alch because he was running in a dual lane, but statistically, if you have similarly skilled players, the Shadow Fiend comes out ahead here.
Right. So, early bottle, obviously, gets picked up by a quick Grievous Greed ad by Alchemist. Meanwhile, in the mid position, it's going to be Frosty Cakes helping Sinclair with the block. He looks like he'll head towards the bottom lane where it'll be KCY on the assist from Mamalode. Up to the top, it's going to be Sorry in the off lane. Sinclair immediately under attack by Avarice and Azure. Basically doing what they did last time, where Azure comes through, throws up a few shots at Sinclair just to sort of give a chance for Azure to get a little extra farm here to start it out, and that's exactly what they are going to do very effectively. Off lane is going to be Death, so it looks like the heroes were the choice, not necessarily the player in the position. So Death is going to be taking the off lane, and it looks like Avarice will be playing a support Undying.
Yeah, this is, once again, either support or offlane. You see him in both roles very frequently these days. Running him in a dual lane is weird, but he seems to be going back to do some stacks, and he'll collapse into a tri-lane now. That makes a lot more sense.
I do think
he needs,
It shows, I think, a little bit of a strength on Avarice's part, comfortable going into two positions. At this stage, at this level of play, you generally see players stick to their lane assignment. Sorry takes some damage, blinks to safety, but is going to have to burn through that regen pretty aggressively. Meanwhile, on the bottom, Death under attack from Frosty Cake's got to eat his way out of a Fisher Trap. Key's stun is just barely going to miss.
Up top, looks like they're thinking about making something happen here. No, they were trying to stack and they failed. I saw some pinging.
Lots of pinging. I think it was a just be careful. KY has been very aggressive on Sorry. Sorry has a mango for emergency purposes. Meanwhile, on the bottom, KCY doing everything she can to hunt Death down. Frosty Cakes comes in. Nice Fisher, going to utilize that to slow down Death on his escape. Body blocks all day. The stun will miss again.
And now in the mid lane, Sinclair is taking quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, this happened last time. It was that top rune control played very well by U of T to make sure that Azure was able to lock it in. They got very lucky with the spawns of those bounty runes last time, and it looks like it might happen again as Azure does get the bounty. Captain's to the high ground. He's got flight if he wants to engage here from behind. It looks like they may try to push Azure backwards. Oh, no, that's what it is.
He's going
to
for the
pick off on the courier.
And he's going to get it, too. It's not flying yet.
Nope, he comes in, he's got the flight, makes his move down, goes for the attack. There's one. Can he get the second? Courier jukes into the trees.
Does he not have boots? Oh, he doesn't have boots.
No boots.
It was a mistake to do that without boots. He should have either used the smoke for the movement speed buff there. It would have been well worth the smoke to get that courier. And the extra 15% speed would have gotten him there. Or he needed to buy boots instead of that smoke so that he could get the courier. One of those two things had to happen.
I think he was he was hoping that Sinclair being attacked by Alchemist at the same moment would take him away from the ability to micro that. That said, it did not pan out. Sinclair, very aware, able to move that courier away from a nice gank. Would have stopped, I believe, the Wraith Band from coming out to him.
Yeah, and more importantly, they would not have had a flying courier for the first. Yeah, it's probably a bottle, but
it was.
It would not have. They wouldn't have had a flying courier for 3 minutes, which is a huge advantage for U of T, especially since U of T's items should be coming out faster because they have an alchemist.
All right, so Azure continues to go forward, being very aggressive on this lane. He's 7-1. Shadow Fiend is 15-12. So Sinclair doing a little better this time around. Azure taking a lot of damage from Sinclair, though the raise almost finishes him. He does have to run that bottle and manages to escape Sinclair night and day compared to the last time they mitted. Meanwhile, they're forcing those blinks by Quaquest to play very carefully here on the top lane. Down the bottom, Mamalode head-to-head with the Darkseer. Mamalode at 10-14. Darkseer at 3-1. Mamalode not getting near as much farm, but a good amount of denies. So doing a good job of trying to take more away from the Darkseer. Captain to go flight, heads to the top, and Sinclair able to bottle the rune. So again, they tried to execute the top rune control. They even got lucky on the bounty spawn, but Azure was just too low to go in and contest because of his positioning against Sinclair earlier in this match.
I want to bring just a touch of attention down to this bottom lane where Death is not getting a ton of last hits, and he does not have jungle potential to catch up because the Alchemist is going to be using that jungle.
Right.
So this is having an underfarmed offlaner when you have a mid Alchemist on your team can be very difficult to come back from because he doesn't really have a lot of options in order to engage. So the sniper into Darkseer for the laning phase ends up working out here because the ion shells are doing nothing. Now, whether or not that will be true once the Surge is closing the gap on the Sniper later on, we might see Sniper regretting that decision.
And a lot of that comes down, Sniper has been very good at getting those last hits on the targets, keeping Ion Shell from getting farm, which has been incredibly helpful. Meanwhile, KCY making sure that she consistently comes back from stacking the jungle to box out the Darkseer. Death having a very tough go of things on this lane, though. I think Death has had a tough series. KY goes in again and forces back the Queen of Pain. Queen of Pain doing everything she can to stay relevant. She's 9-5, still doing better than the Darkseer in terms of offlane.
Yeah, and more importantly, she has more catch-up potential because her jungle is more open. Granted, the Shadow Fiend, up top, she's
making a
try
move.
to
She's going for KY. KY turns on. She's going to have to back here. She can't stick in. Soul Rip by Avarice forces her away. Close, though. I mean, nice boldness to say, listen, you can't boss me around. No, we missed it. I missed it. What? What was he doing up there?
The Alchemist? He was diving for a kill, I assume.
Ah. Intriguing. No. So they killed out the Winter Wyvern. Sinclair came all the way in along with Frosty Cakes to pick off the Wyvern.
They went up there. The Alchemist was up here trying to, I assume, I didn't see what the Alchemist was doing, but I assume that he was going up for jungle camps and wasn't really around for the Wyvern's protection.
Sinclair wants to do it again, moves in, sees Avarice, tries to make the attack. Frosty Cakes comes out with the Fisher. Will that squelch movement? It does. That's a double. They repeat the same play they just made, get another kill. Now they try to go again, but Wyvern has returned. Sinclair dropping low. Death comes in with the TP. Ion Shell go boom. No stun for Frosty Cakes, though. He'll get to safety. Gyro's here to help. They say, you do it. Fool me once. Shame on me. Fool me twice. Vengeance for us.
Yeah, though I'm not sure why Shadow Fiend stayed to auto-attack that last creep. To be honest, it seemed really out of place. Yeah, it's an interesting call. Now for that one creep, he lost half of his souls and basically a third of his damage overall. He is going to be going for treads into Mechanism this time.
That did
so they're planning on pushing.
It did allow Azure to get a little more comfortable in terms of matching him farm for farm. Gold lead is pretty close. 250. XP is only 1,000 for UBC. This is turning out at 7 minutes to be a much closer match than either of the other two we already saw. Now, which team has the potential, based on their heroes and sort of time framing, to start to really take the fight to the opponents in the next 5 to 10 minutes?
I think UBC's in a better position, but with the Alchemist, you can't necessarily count U of T out. If he does somehow just burst through a Radiance in the next couple of minutes, it'll be very difficult for that push to be effective.
Right.
He's about 1,300 away from his first component, that Sacred Relic, which is obviously the hardest piece to get. So if UBC can rotate in and actually get a kill on him right now, then they would be in a absolutely stellar position in order to push here within the next 2 or 3 minutes.
Sinclair finds Death looking at the rune, boxes him out very effectively, says the rune will be mine, and takes it. Meanwhile, up top, Alchemist going to be sad to see an illusion rune instead of a bounty rune. Down the bottom, Momolo getting free farm as Darkseer just could not stay anymore, and he is going to rotate to the mid position, it looks like, to try and push that down. I was skeptical about the sniper pickup, but he has done a phenomenal job of just shutting down Darkseer. He's spamming shrapnel every time an ion shell comes out, controlling this lane from a distance in which Darkseer cannot do any damage to him, and it really is proving to be fairly effective.
Yeah, but he should be winning this lane like that. That sniper is basically in terms of a laning hero, he is essentially designed to win against Darkseer. The problem comes out at that 15 to 30 minute, like that mid-game area, where all of a sudden you can't get away from your opponent's hero. So Momolo needs to get enough advantage now to offset that disadvantage later, and that's the worry that I have. And
then what does he build to make sure that he has that advantage? By the way, TP's coming to bottom. We're going to go ahead and get a salve out for Sniper. Turns back. KY wants to put some work in. Calldown's going to come up. Sinclair stays and fights. Ultimate on KY. He'll go down. Death dropping low. He finishes the job. Sinclair putting in work. That's a triple kill for UBC. Sinclair showing a giant cojones as he refuses to back, stays to fight. Momolo stops the right-clicking to use the ultimate on KY, and they end up getting a triple pick for that. Gold lead is going to now swing to UBC's side after that exchange, but XP, and this is a little more important, I think, in the comparison right now, is 3,000 to an advantage of UBC.
Yeah, and that XP is super important with specifically regard to this stage of the game, because we're starting to see heroes are coming out toward their ultimates. The team that has those ultimates up first is going to be able to take these team fights much more effectively.
Wyvern. Oh, man. Sorry, Twitch chat calling me out on my pronunciation of Wyvern. It's Wyvern.
It's definitely not Wyvern.
You shut your
face. Which
face.
is what
double damage gonna get popped on. Sorry, Tombstone to the high ground. It's cute, but it's not enough. Frosty Cakes finishes the job. Here comes Captain, puts up the flight. Sorry, says, I'm just going to stay here and click your Tombstone. And he says, maybe not. Blinks away. It just leaves Tombstone up there. What harm is it really causing? Sorry, going to go ahead and try to just right-click down the Tombstone spawns. And now
just go get the gold. Go kill it, Sinclair. It's gold. It is free. He's not going to do it in time now.
Nope.
He's going to miss it.
Ah, so close.
Should have just gotten over there. That's worth way more than a creep, which is what he traded that off for.
Mamalode on the bottom, happy and literally, so Mamalode hasn't had to leave lane. The team fights have come to him. He gets a couple of kills and then just goes back to farming. I mean, this is the optimal situation for a sniper. What's not optimal is Sinclair, the wraparound happening to him right now, but he knows it's coming. He has to suspect it. Puts himself in a really good position to avoid it if it should come because of this great ward that Radiance got up there. So he knows where his safety zone is, moves on death. In they go, a short range vacuum. Sinclair keeps the fight going. Tombstone is down though. He's got to be careful. Oh, the TP in by the sniper. Avarice drops low. Not enough to finish him, though. We do see Shrapnel come out. Sorry wants the job. Moves off for Avarice. Gets the pick off. Shrapnel putting some work in on Azure. Sorry. Going to be on the run. Blink off in 8 seconds. Has to try to make this work. They're pegging her, saying go this way. Orange is on his way. Sorry does not get the memo. Here comes Earthshaker, Frosty Cakes to make the save. Not going to happen. Cancels the Fisher to not give away his position. Memo received too late by the Queen to get to Frosty Cakes for the save. And that actually works out very well for the University of Toronto. Mamalo just barely misgauged what Assassinate would be able to do.
And that is what happens when the Alchemist gets an 11-minute Radiance. Now he's maybe too cocky. And he does not have the mana for his ult. He should die here.
There he goes. Down it goes. Echo Slam just in case.
Celebration Echo Slam is what just happened. There, that was... He's partying like it's 1999.
I think he wanted that Blink Dagger. So he gets the kill. Confirmed. Make sure it goes down. The Radiance was putting out a lot of damage. Like you said, very fast Radiance on that Alchemist. Able to start putting out some serious team fight potential. Death up against Sinclair. There's the Fisher. Sinclair going to close. Shadow Rays comes out. Pops the Surge. Forces him back. And this will be an easy push into this tower. They're going to blow the Glyph because why not? But that won't push anybody back. So UBC will take this tier 1. And will probably rotate up top to continue just taking away the mobility and the farm of U of T. Gold lead has hit 2,000 for UBC, which is saying something considering that there is an Alchemist on the opposite side. They have the XP advantage as well. Looks like they might want to go on Captain. Sorry, thought about it. Maybe decided against it, and they'll head towards the top lane where Mamalode going head-to-head with Avarice. He's finished up the Mask of Madness. The chase is on. Azure wants to get the stun in. Long distance stun on Mamalode, but they cannot close the distance. They have to be careful. Azure going to walk into Sinclair. Misses the first Shadow Rays, but now Azure is alone and in the dark. Hit from behind. Sniper takes vengeance. Avarice says, "Ruh-roh." Starts to run. Here comes Sorry. Throws out the dagger. In comes the Tombstone. Shot to the face with Laguna. Immediately Tombstone goes down. Frosty Cakes on the wraparound. That's a double. And UBC looks like they are taking the last game and rolling it right into this one.
Yeah, they need to be careful here. Yeah, and they will actually split up. They don't have any of their mana or nukes or ults left. So that was a great engagement. If they get re-engaged into here, they could find themselves in trouble.
Sorry.
The Glyph is there, and it will be used.
Because why not? But they don't have a pushback on this, so it should be the end of this tower. Down the bottom, Sorry was playing very aggressively against KY. Pays the price for it. Stayed a little too long. KY with a nice play. Backs out, wraps around, and gets a pick off on the Queen of Pain. And that's actually a big gold boost for him. He picked up 500 gold swing on that pick. Though still UBC at a 3,500 advantage. Now they want to go on Sinclair. He gets caught by Captain. Death gets hit with a massive double Fisher. Death dropping low. He's going to fall. Lena coming in to help. Frosty Cakes wants to go. Captain in some trouble as Lena will close the distance. Hits the gap. Hits the stun. Down goes everyone. And now we're going to drop the Tombstone for zoning, but Avarice can't do anything to support it. Sinclair, Frosty Cakes, KCY knock it down. Get the additional gold. Now here comes Mamalode looking to make something happen. Throws down some shrapnel. The right clicks are there, and Avarice has to back away. Meanwhile, KY is just going to stay on the bottom lane. It looks like Azure is going to try to farm his opponent's jungle and make something happen as U of T feels lost to me right now. Like they just don't know how to answer what UBC is doing.
So part of the problem is, and this is a classic Alchemist draft problem, is that Alchemist is good and ready to fight, and he can really contribute a lot right now. but his team can't because his team doesn't have Greevil's Greed. And so his team is really underfarmed relative to him.
Right.
And he's died twice with Tower Gold and with his own advantage being thrown the way of UBC with that 6.82 gold mechanic, which has been dialed back but still exists. So now every time somebody dies on U of T, Azure's gold is being leaked away a little bit, little by little by little. That ends up hurting everyone on U of T except the Alchemist, who then gets even more advantage, who then feeds in even more gold in indirectly when his teammates die, right? It's cyclical.
Smoke Gank comes out. Speaking of dead Azure, it looks like this is another shade of dead. As I was going to say shade of blue, but Azure is just getting rocked by these rotations by UBC. They know he's trying to farm. He went and farmed in his opponent's jungle, got pushed out, farms his jungle, gets knocked down. Taking out all of these tier 1s was huge by this stage. Yes, Azure got a good start with the Radiance, but UBC had an answer, and honestly, that sniper is proving incredibly effective as U of T can't get past the front line. Frosty Cakes has been effective with his initiations, giving Mamalode plenty of time and plenty of range to just put in work from the outside.
U of T has not gotten to the point where they're supposed to be able to counter that sniper yet. Like they have been held under water in such a way. That Alchemist went down in such a way. It wasn't another shade of blue. That was like 50 Shades of Gray. It was fast and it was brutal. It was. And honestly, a little sexual. I'm not gonna lie. It was not a pretty sight.
KCY being tracked by an invisible KY here. KY's got to be careful though. His invisibility is about to run out, and he does find Orange. Frosty Cake stayed a little bit. KCY puts a right-click pop on him. Frosty Cake says no thank you and backs away because he has a blink dagger on the way to him. So basically, he stuck around to make sure he finished the blink. Wants to back out, not interested in engagement until it shows up, as he does have Echo Slam available. So we'll go back and pick that up, and we'll come in on the back. So this is optimal time to pick up that blink dagger as his team pushes into the mid lane. They're going to have to contest this. It means you will probably see a group up, which makes that Echo Slam very, very effective. Nice Fisher. Initiation. Sorry, takes damage. There's the Echo Slam. Hits 2. Avarice drops low. Finishes off the Gyrocopter. Tombstone, a non-factor. And middle tower goes down.
Yeah, there's got to be like 1,000 gold just from Tombstones in UBC's pockets right now. The decision to draft a bunch of bursts was really effective, and I do not feel like Azure, at this moment at least, seems to be recognizing that that's been a problem for him and his team. I fear that he's going to go into the Boots of Travel Manta-style Octarine core, despite how much difficulty his team is having this game. A BKB would be so much better than any of that stuff right now. And then just grouping up with his team, using that Radiance for the mischance. A lot of people think the Radiance is just there so that you can maximize your farm. But what it's really there for is helping ease some of your team's difficulties by the fact that almost all of their farm is on one hero. It creates that AoE mischance, AoE damage that indirectly strengthens every member of your team if you're near them.
Right.
And then the travels help you go farm and then show up to where your team is fighting whenever they need you so that you can farm more effectively. And then you get the Manta style in order to maximize your farm. But that's what that build is for, right? It's not just I need to farm as fast as I can. It's that I need to help elevate my teammates who are falling behind.
Sinclair bottles a haste rune, comes up just in time to see the Boots of Travel TP to the Alchemist on lane. Alchemist cancels it very, very quickly. Could have gotten some serious trouble had the timing been slightly different there, but it works out. Sinclair now comes in. Captain gets hit with the Fisher. Sinclair putting up some damage. In comes another TP, and the two on the bottom, Frosty Cakes and Sinclair, look like they will back, or will they? Sinclair feeling very bold with that haste rune activated. Gonna lead in, puts up some more damage on Avarice. He's by himself right now. He says, all right, I think I've done enough. Meanwhile, up on top, Sorry gonna work that split push as we do see a rotation by KCY and Mamalode down to the bottom. So they look like they're gonna go 4v4 with the rotation of Azure. Azure has to come in and help out with this defense. He's not. He's going to TP to top to stop the Queen of Pain, which should signal the guys from UBC to be able to go forward. They will. They'll smoke and immediately lean on this tower as they saw the rotations up to stop the Queen of Pain push. Big initiation on Avarice. Fast and deadly is the guys from UBC. For a team, lots of gank, lots of initiation, and U of T just can't answer. Every time they try to stop a push, something props up somewhere else.
The part of the problem is their items, they don't have a single finished item off of the Alchemist except the Sange, which is only half of the component Sange and Yasha. I wouldn't even consider the Sange itself a completed component at this stage in the game at 19 minutes.
Right.
So Gyrocopter is still working on his first basic item, or his first advanced item rather. It's like tier item.
When you're staring at a Sinclair, who is your opponent mid, who is sitting on a Sanjasha and a mech completely finished as one of the 1,200 in the bank. So, very tough. I mean, the gold lead is 10,000 effectively for UBC. XP is 7,500 for UBC, and that is up against, like we said, an Alchemist who is there genuinely to try and manage net worth. If we go to the overall net worth, he's only 2,000 gold ahead of the Shadow Fiend.
This is not that uncommon with farming alchemists, and this is one of the reasons that I really don't like farming alchemists that much. If your team gets off to kind of a rough start, having an alchemist usually hurts them. Because he's in the early game, he gets lots of gold. Oh, but
this might be it. If you see a rotation, Alchemist gets stunned by Frosty Cakes, going to zone him out. Immediately, they're going to throw up some shrapnel. Says, don't you come in here. The Aegis is grabbed, and just like a band of cockroaches, UFT scatters the second that they see that notice come up.
Yeah, these are some Guatemala like these are size of sedans if these are cockroaches.
All right, Death is going to TP away. No stop there. Nice play to get to safety. Meanwhile, in the mid, Sinclair and KCY going to start the push on the mid position. Sorry, Momalode and Frosty Cakes grouping up here to finish out these creeps. They do have a smoke if they want to rotate. Looks like Sorry will just TP back to base to get some mana. Sinclair feeling very confident with that Aegis on as well as a Invis rune inside his bottle, so he can push forward and then choose to fade away at any given time.
I don't really know what U of T do here other than call down onto Acid Spray, get as much spraying out damage from the Gyrocopter as you can, try to place the Tombstone well, and just hope that your opponents botch the high ground attempt. A lot of Alchemist comebacks are based on my opponent's botched high ground attempts. So that's what they're banking on. They are banking on that chance that UBC are going to overextend, but it looks like they're very happy to just kind of sit here and chip away.
Well, Azure's not there. Azure is on the top lane trying to push, so Sinclair is going to back away, though, uses the Invis rune. Now we see the TP by Azure to get involved. Rotation by Frosty Cakes. He will grab that regen rune on his way to top, which is a nice little grab for him. Be able to come in at full mana and start to put out some serious damage push. Now they're going to start to put on the tower. Sinclair goes to the high ground, takes a lot of damage. Out comes the Glyph. Looks like they may want to engage. We're going to fire up a... Was that a Manta or an Illusion? That's a Manta used by Azure as he goes and picks that up as his second item instead of the Sanj Yasha. I thought he had a Sanj earlier.
He does. No, it was the Gyrocopter we were talking about.
Oh,
what are you
gotcha.
talking
Sorry.
about? Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mamalote's going to go for Manta for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so he gets the Yasha, goes ahead and finishes up for a mana. Keeps pushing forward. Sinclair is not phased. He wants to keep going. The rest of his team kind of far back. Sinclair taking a lot of damage. Tombstone's going to go down on the high ground. Call down comes out. They want that Aegis to come free. Sinclair is likely going to get the Aegis pop. Nope, just walks back. KCY taking some damage, but he's going to zone out as well. Frosty Cakes. Here comes Momalode. Gets pulled in. Nice vacuum. Momalode to the high ground. Not a lot of hope, but big Blake Echo Slab Nightmares! University of Toronto is going to wake up in cold sweats off of what they thought was an absolutely perfect sniper initiation that backfired because Frosty Cakes and Quap were simply waiting for it.
Yeah, the buyback from the Gyrocopter, but I think that he can't do anything here. He probably has to let the Rex fall anyway. So the buyback was honestly wasted there as well. It was just a little bit too eager.
They go for the
Wyvern
range
has
first.
ult in 15.
Wyvern's got ultimate. Sinclair dropping pretty low, but he's got the Aegis. Put some damage on Captain. Sorry, he's got to be careful. Pinging him out. He's stunned. He's locked. He's dropped. Here comes the call down. Everyone dodges it except KCY takes one. That's not enough, though. Sorry and Sinclair stick around. Here comes the TP. They may not get the melee racks as KY and Undying are coming for the defense. Sinclair is going to go down, but the Aegis comes out. Captain wants to make a play. Sorry walks into the wall. Has to try to jump to safety. As he gets his blink up, Sinclair goes ahead and blows the ultimate. Wants to keep going. Turns around. Goes immediately for that Tombstone. Tombstone drops down. U of T sends Death in. Death gets caught by the Fisher. Can they finish the job? They will. He goes down. He's going to have to fall back. I don't know that... Can UBC continue their assault? It looks like they can.
Oh, yeah.
As they
Yeah, they
continue.
definitely can.
Here comes the stun from Alchemist. Going to throw it out. Slows Sinclair down inside of the Acid Spray. But that's not going to stop their initiation. Out comes the stun. There's the ultimate. Sinclair in too deep. Gets caught by KY. Down he goes. And now UBC has to withdraw. No racks for their trouble.
Okay, well, they could have, I think, putting all of your damage onto the Alchemist while he has his ult running. That was not the best call that they've ever made. It was definitely the reason that they didn't just win the game.
Mm-hmm.
They put a lot of damage over time onto him and small nukes. If you don't have the Queen of Pain Lina ulti, you just kind of have to leave him for last because there's just no way to get through all of it by chewing it through, you know, especially while he's running away.
All right, so gold lead after that is said and done is about 13,000 to the favor of UBC. XP is sitting at about 12, and UBC doing very well in this game. If we go ahead and look at itemization for UBC, we got the Maelstrom on the Sniper, followed by a Yasha. It is Mask of Madness, Shadow Fiend with the Sand Yasha and the mech that we talked about earlier. It looks like Queen of Pain and Lena both finished up their Ag Scepters. Manta Style about to be done on the Sniper, and that's it for UBC. On the side of University of Toronto, different story, right? We've got Undying with the Medallion of Courage. We've got Darkseer with a mech. And then we've got, like you said, the Sanj on Gyrocopter. He does have the BKB recipe as getting close to finishing it. But he did have to divert from his original build intention, with his, which hurt them pretty significantly and has slowed down their ability to get to kind of turn.
It's okay. Survivability is his biggest problem right now, especially with the high ground defense. He doesn't need a ton of damage. He just needs to be able to last, right? That's his biggest problem. I think U of T are doing a just fine job of trying to defend this top. I think that Gyrocopter blew a buyback unnecessarily during that, which ended up hurting them quite a bit. But all things said and done, they actually took that high ground defense fairly gracefully. They got a great vacuum into an engagement. Even though they got wiped, they managed to preserve their racks.
True.
Could have been worse.
Fair point. Could have been worse. You could have bird flu.
They could have bird flu, and also the game could be over. They could be sitting alone with bird flu, having lost the game. So
I worked in a restaurant where, you know, when you work at a restaurant, everybody complains, and we sit in the smoke room and we complain all the time. And every time we complained, this dishwasher, this crazy old dishwasher, would stick his head in and say things like, "Could be worse. You could be broke," or "Could be worse. You could have bird flu." Every time. So we just stopped complaining at our job. Little side story for you there.
Wow.
Gold lead 12,000, XP 12 as well, and UBC waiting for their chance to push this high ground.
I've never heard. I need to mention that I have never heard of somebody be so disappointed at working with a blatant optimist.
Right.
I had this really positive guy that I worked with, and it was just an awful experience for me.
When you work at a 24-hour pancake house, all you really have is the ability to complain. Like, nobody comes into a pancake house at 4 a.m. on third shift and is in a good mood and treats you well. So,
to be fair, I used to be a musician, and we do that all the time. Musicians do. Pancake houses at 4 a.m. are like after work dinner. So.
And you're grumpy and tired.
No, we're drunk and happy.
Well played. That's fair. That's fair. All right. So right now, I mean, you're at U of T's position. They're going into your high ground. In fact, we're going to pause as they just come in and finish that Rex. What do? How do you win this?
A great Wyvern ult into a Darkseer vacuum with everything on top. Right. That's basically what it is.
I like that you're saying Wyvern. You're saying it wrong too now.
Am I? It's because I listened to you. I learned it from you.
Toffee's breaking pronunciation since 1983, I guess, technically. All right, KY, Death, everyone comes forward. Sorry, does miss the ultimate, though. Sinclair wants to go. They're going to make their move. Azure puts out a nice stun and a vacuum. So the vacuum stun into the wall. Big Echo Slam, though. Gets one, gets two, make it three. The buyback immediately from the Darkseer. Alchemist going to go on the run. They're going to hit the melee. Rax is going to start to drop down. Now we see the triple kill come out as we lose the Undying 2. KCY putting in place. Nice stun to try and get Azure caught out of position, but a good Fisher on the backside. Sinclair wants to turn. Shadow Ray's available. Not going to be needed. Down, he does need it as he finishes off the Alchemist. That's going to be a quad. Actually, it's a 5 kill as you did get the buyback coming out. I believe it was from the Gyro in that fight, and now all that's left is the
buyback was on cooldown still. It must have been Darkseer.
It was Darkseer. So Darkseer did buy back, and all that's buyback's going to get him is the ability to stand by and watch the bottom tower go down. They're pinging him saying, "Can you do anything?" He's like, "No, there's not even creeps for me to put Ion Shell on."
I think that they were maybe waiting for the Mechanism to come closer to up before the Alchemist bought back. I think that was smart. Mechanism is almost up on the Darkseer, and Alchemist is just going to try to use this mischance to save his Rex.
Sinclair going to roll in, comes in with that Radiance. Frosty Cakes now going to back around. KCY from the other side. Death, first one to go down. Now we see Azure wants Frosty Cakes, is going to finish the job, but Avarice comes in, and Avarice drops out. U of T, a admirable attempt at making the comeback and saving the life, but it's not going to happen. Ends up being a triple. Diebacks all around, and no surprise, the GG at 29 minutes. No game tonight has broken the 30-minute barriers. UBC and U of T have literally shown us barn burners. This is the second night in a row this week where every match has just been aggressive, fast, and gnarly. My name is Toffees, guys. You can find me at Toffees TV. I'm joined here by Gorgon Zivundacow. You can find him over on Twitter at the Wonder Cow. We're here for the CSL. That's the Collegiate Star League. It's a good one. It's the best place to see Collegiate Dota. If you're interested in playing next season, go check it out at cstarleague.com. Gorgon, what'd you think of the 3 games tonight?
They were entertaining. I honestly, I prefer less one-sided games in general, but the fact that the series flipped at least made it interesting.
Yeah, definitely made it interesting. That said, guys, it is going to go to University of British Columbia. They will secure their position on the top of the bracket, making their overall record 4-0 against some of the best teams in the North Division, making a strong case for why they deserve an invite to the LAN final for their share of the $15,000 in scholarship funds. Come back every Tuesday and Thursday night here for Dota, as myself and Gorgon the Wonder Cow will be bringing you all of the action every single week, Scouts Honor, through December, and then we'll take a break and come back to you live starting up in January. That said, it's not all. We also cover games like Hearthstone, CSGO, League of Legends. You can find all of that here on the same channel on different nights. So make sure you go to cstarleague.com, check out when your favorite games and your favorite colleges are playing, and join us weekly for some of the best collegiate gaming in esports. My name's Toffees again. Thanks for joining us tonight. I hope you guys have a pleasant evening, play more Dota, and as always, Toffees out.
Skies flow like rivers of 10,000